Hey, I'm having an issue. Give me just a second. We might start. The timer might run out. We might start a little bit late, but I'm working on it.
What you think about when you're born into a fire. Let them burn it out. Sell them to the richest buyer. They wanna let the world decay. They tell us lies and fade away, fade away. We feel betrayed. We were raised to lose the race. Wake at the back of the pack.
5 bowls of boiled oil.
Listen up now.
What the fuck is going on?
Never dropping now.
What's up, losers?
Beat the big house. The brains are bigger than the Dow. We've been thinking for a
We're having a tech issue. It might be a second. I might have to cancel the whole show.
This is bigger than ourselves. We won't let the world burn away.
So I titled last night's show as a joke, like Happy Sperm Donor Day. And someone went to my Rumble account and was like, fathers are much more than sperm donors. This is so mean. I guess people don't do jokes anymore. It's uncalled for. So I said, get the fuck out of here, sperm swallower. Then someone called that mean. Or aggressive, I think. They called it aggressive. I think they're just fucking dickheads. That's what I think. And I don't stream. What do you guys do? Sit around and vibrate? I guess it's a silly question. I always stream, but still. Hold on just a second. Let me stop that music. We might still be able to start on time. Kill the music. Hold on. Fix this. Update. Refresh. Reload the extension. Maybe. Yeah, it was just a joke. Plenty of people say that, like if they're a deadbeat dad or whatever. But I just made Happy Sperm Donors Day. I just thought it was a joke. People take it way too fucking seriously. All right, here we go. Bean footage.
Hey daddies, it's me, the Linda Binda from TikTok. I wanted to make this video because I wanted to thank you for watching Cold Beer Confessionals with Will Bird. I think that's just incredible. I've watched a few episodes and I'm just like very intrigued. But you know what I'm most intrigued in is Big Daddy's meat stick. I heard that it's very thick, like a good old German sausage. You know, Linda and her coochie loves that. Oh, never mind. Let's not go there. Anyways, I hope you have a good show and enjoy it. as you can. There's a lot of weird things that go on, especially when it comes from the realm of Linda Bindaland. So, enjoy the show. Thanks for watching. Peace out.
Welcome everybody. It's me, Will Bird, host of the Cold Beer Confessional. Thank you for joining us. What's happening? What's up? Got Patron in my cup. I've been having a couple off days. I don't know. I didn't do real well with Father's Day. Didn't do real well the week before, and really now, anyways. But I figured I'd come on here and we could still have some fun and hang out. If you're interested in supporting the show, you can do that at coldbeer.fund, 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 where you can pick how you want to donate. Most people use Buy Me a Coffee. That's the website. It's up behind me. Thank you guys for joining us. Either way, you don't have to donate, but I appreciate you watching. We got a couple things to go over tonight. First of all, someone sent me this, which I hope it's true. They asked me, have you been keeping up with Brad Barton? And honestly, not so much really. Like if I see something on like I own a page on Facebook that I check sparingly. It is called The Debunking Crew. And I didn't start the page. Someone else started it that was a fan of my show, and they just didn't have time for it. For all that it entailed, like keeping up and deleting posts and adding people and all that shit. So they decided to gift it to me because they just didn't have time for it. So I keep up with it sparingly, really. Usually when there's something going on or there's a request to join or something like that, I go through like every couple of weeks and do the thing. Anyways, if there's something about Brad Barton, I usually see it like at the top of that page, right? They do a really good job. I'm glad I got the page because they do a really good job of taking care of this. Sending me information that I probably would miss. And, yeah, that's interesting. Either way, I had not been keeping up with Brad, but they sent me this post. And this is from the Brad Barton post show. Now, there's two different Brad Barton post shows. There's one that's like fans of Brad Barton. Then there's one that like hates Brad Barton. And I think this is the friendly supporters of Brad Barton. It says, if you haven't watched Brad's last show on Rumble, take a listen. He, Kristen, and their son have moved to Georgia and are renting a home that's about 2,000 square feet. Now, 2,000 square feet is a decent-sized home. Our last home was like 1,800 square feet with I guess it was like 2,200 because it had a almost 400 of like garage, refinished garage and bonus room kind of deal. But anyways, 2,000 square feet is a decent sized home for most people, but not for Brad. He lives in $1 million home, right? He lives in $1 million home. So it's strange that he's living in a 2,000 square feet home and in Georgia. He's from Tennessee, just south of Chattanooga. It says his son is switching schools. Now, this is also interesting. His son goes to this fancy ass, Roseanne may tear him a new one. Roseanne licks his ball sack. Anyways, he goes to his son goes to a school that's a private school. It's like 30, last time I looked, it was like $33,000 a year. A private school is like $33,000 a year. If you don't know Brad Barton, before he made it big as a grifter, he made it big on MLMs, right? Signing people up and doing that shit. They had like this discount purchasing MLM. Anyways, he's got a huge downline. That's how he makes his money. So he and his wife were both school teachers. That didn't pay enough. They started doing MLMs. They both quit, and they have a huge downline, just like Phil has a huge downline. So his son goes to a super fancy private school. It's Baylor in Chattanooga. Then it says, Brad mentions frequently in the show that things will work out, and he is trusting God to handle this. I'm paraphrasing. Here's a short text conversation that I had with a neighbor. And if we click this, it says, Ed Coates, it says, I thought his son went to elite Baylor school, which is about $30,000 a year. Wonder why he changed schools. Pam Skipper says, don't know. Listen to his show last night. He brought it up. He is a neighbor and says he still owns his huge house down the road from me. It is strange. That's what Pam is, a neighbor of his with a big house. Something is up. Good guess is at IRS, a lot of income sources that don't take out withholding taxes up front. I don't know that he would still own one home and be in another home. I don't know if that would be IRS. The IRS just comes in and starts seizing shit. But you never know. I hope he loses everything. I hope he loses everything he has. And then we'll just point back and laugh. So his daughter and her husband are living in his house for the next year. Oh, that is weird. Huh. Interesting. But that's not what we're covering tonight. And then Mariah was super interested in, she sent me a video that we'll start with. It's like a police video. We're not going to watch the whole thing, but she said maybe a video you can show during your cop segments, at least the first part of the video. We might come back to show the other parts of the video, but we'll watch the first part here. It's pretty wild. Not that part. That's the topless lady at the pool. This part. Then we'll go on to Derek Johnson.
Sometimes, the most unexpected things can lead to a confrontation.
Oh, now they're threatening you.
Telling them that they're fat and ugly? Listen.
I never hit her!
There are some shocking instances where women attempted to start a fight. Then, things went horribly wrong.
Women attempt to start a fight, things go horribly wrong.
On June 7th, 2023, authorities responded to an alarming situation following a call from a distressed father. He reported that his ex-wife's partner, Amanda, who is transitioning and now goes by Jaden, threatened to beat him up.
I've been doing push-ups for the last couple of weeks, and I was able to get 30 actual push-ups today. I'm pretty stoked.
And burn his house down with his kids inside.
You know, bud?
Go yourself.
That's okay.
So what's happening?
So, my baby mama, her and her boyfriend, whatever you want to call them, just split up. And I
Is
asked
that Jaden and Amanda?
Jaden or Amanda. I don't know if
And now I'm
she's
sore as
changed her
fuck.
name yet,
Just moving the
but she's still
microphone
not
hurt.
She's doing that transition thing.
Oh, she's
A girl is going to do a dude.
okay. So it wasn't Amanda, but
Yeah.
Jaden. Okay.
I text her.
Okay, so it's a girl named Amanda, but she's becoming a dude. She's transitioning. Is fucking his ex-wife or current wife. They're still married, but they're separated.
And I said, listen, I need my kids' stuff for school tomorrow because their main physical address is there.
Okay. Where's there?
Over right here on Beverly Drive, 55 Beverly Drive.
Okay.
And I asked him for it, and he said no, and then he threatened to come here and fight me, threatened to burn my house down with me and my kids in it. So I was like, all right, well, right there, that's you guys.
Yeah,
and I would love to press charges completely because this ain't the first time this guy's done it.
All right. So about how many times has he done it, and do you have proof that he's repeatedly done it and you've told him to stop?
Yeah, right here, bud. No, I actually want to
So what they're looking for is repeated. Like someone says, I'll come kill you, and you say, stop, I don't want to talk to you, I'm going to block you. And they're like, I don't give a fuck, I swear I'll come kill you, over and over again. And a documented set of that continually.
fight. I'll burn your house to the ground.
Keep it up.
I just want my
Is that
kids'
today?
stuff, man. Yeah, literally not even 10 minutes ago.
Okay.
Or whenever the time is. I literally just want my kids' stuff.
All right.
Because I've been paying for the house because I give child support. 55 Beverly Drive, the brown house trailer over there. It's literally right there. So
We'll go over and check it out. Do you have it?
So here's what's going on. The kids don't live with him. Typically, they come there on the weekend. His wife has full custody and is living with this transitioning person. The wife, they're separated, but the wife got in an altercation, was fighting, had a panic attack. She's at the ER. So the only people here are dad, who has custody on the weekends, now has kids the full time because of the situation in the old house, and the transitioning person who is apparently causing a lot of problems, making threats, causing problems with the mom, causing problems with the dad, making threats, all those. But he doesn't have a whole lot of documented threats. He's just got the one. It just says, I'll burn your house down with your kids in it. That's just one. Maybe you can get them for harassment, but usually harassment is like a continuing thing. You probably get them with some type of threats or something, maybe. I don't know.
Any other?
no, because it's been over the years, dude. Okay. It's been the past 3-4 years. This guy, you guys have been after this person several times. Yesterday, my kid's mom texted me while I was at work. Said, you need to come get me. I said, well, I'm at work. So I had my mom go get them.
Okay.
Because they're fighting, and I don't want my kids around that.
Okay.
And they get violent.
Jaden,
Yeah.
Amanda does?
Yeah. She's very violent. I will warn you, she's a very violent person.
Okay. So
Be warned.
as far as pressing charges,
Amanda and Jaden are the same person. I think the separated wife's name's Kayla, maybe?
today, with aggravated harassment, things have changed. All right. So you said over the years, right?
Yeah.
So it's been over the years, but they haven't acted on it. So
Well, because every time they reconciled.
right. So the idea is that we see like a consistent. I'm gonna bring your house down the ground. Stop texting me. Stop saying that stuff. I don't care. I'm gonna bring your house down to the ground. And then it keeps on like it shows some consistency.
Yeah.
So as far as charges go, I'm gonna tell them if they continue the behavior, then there will be aggravated harassment charges.
Okay.
But as of right now, I don't really have much. But I will go over there and talk to them, see what their deal is.
Girl guy.
Sounds like a plan. Go over there and threaten them. Say, hey, if you keep this up, there will be charges for aggravated harassment. You need to stop, block each other, whatever you got to do.
Because obviously it's unacceptable.
To clarify, Amanda is a transgender individual now called Jaden. He is the boyfriend of the man's ex-wife, against whom he wishes to press charges.
You guys were in a physical. You guys had a physical relationship. Who? You and Amanda?
No.
Oh, no.
No, she's with my kid's mom. She's with my ex.
Oh,
my wife.
okay.
We're still legally married, so my wife.
Gotcha. Okay.
They've been fighting since yesterday. I had my
What was that? Did somebody just scream?
She's with my kid's mom. She's with my ex.
Oh,
my wife.
okay.
We're still legally married, so my wife.
Gotcha. Okay.
They've been fighting since yesterday.
I don't know what
go
that
pick them up. My ex knew that as soon as
This coworker I had one time lost her boyfriend to his one-armed lesbian ex-wife. He just hooked up to his camper behind her trailer and up and left. Well,
would get home, they get physical. And now most of my kids' stuff is over there, and Amanda won't let my ex, which is Kayla, to go over there and get her stuff. Or he won't leave because he don't have an income. He can't pay for the place.
What's Amanda's last name?
Wilder, W-I-L.
I've been working on tinting my windows, dude. And today I walked into the middle of the day. It was so fucking dark in there. It looked like it was coming a storm.
D-E-R.
Your kids will go over there sometimes, but
No, that's their physical address.
right. Don't they go over there to spend time with their mother then?
Yeah, that's the kids' physical address.
Oh, that's their physical address.
I technically only supposed to have them on the weekends, or when I have time off. Okay.
All right, so he's got them right now because of the fighting, but he's technically only supposed to have custody on the weekend.
Which I've been having them every day, even when they weren't fighting.
But so they're
This person, the Amanda, Jaden, the transitioning person, is not going to cooperate with anything.
fighting, and that's why you have them now.
Yeah, which Kayla would be here now, but she's in the hospital because of this whole situation. Having panic attacks and passing out.
Why did she threaten to burn the house down? Why was
Because
that?
so I texted her and I said, listen, I want my kids' stuff.
Oh, yeah,
Go
that's
to school
right.
tomorrow.
Okay.
And then
Which is fucked up. Like he's watching the kids because they're fighting and it gets physical, which is a hats off to him, right? You could have said, fuck them kids kind of deal, but he's a dad. He doesn't want them around them when they're fighting. So he's watching the kid. They all live in the same kind of trailer park, by the way. It's just a couple streets over. So he texts the guy because the one he usually contacts, his ex-wife or separated wife, is in the hospital. He texts the guy and says, hey, can I get the kids' stuff for school? If they're going to be staying here, can I get their school stuff? And the guy's like, fuck you, I'll burn your house down and kill you.
And he's calling me a lowlife and all this, and I'm just like, yeah, okay, whatever, sure.
All right.
At least I'm not saying I won't give the father the kids and stuff, I'm not insulting, I'm not making it worse. I'm just like, well, you're being dumb, you won't give me my kids' stuff.
Right.
That I paid for anyway.
So at this point, I wouldn't say that you have any other reason to contact them. Like, is there any way that you can get around not contacting them outside of getting the property?
Well, yeah, I need, pretty much, he's got to go.
So
Everything in the house I paid for.
if I go over there and get the property, is there going to be an issue if you block him?
Oh, absolutely not.
Because that's probably what the best option is, blocking him and only dealing with Kayla. Because Kayla, even though she's in the predicament that she's in, she seems like the more reasonable one to deal with.
No. I'm the most reasonable
Well,
dude.
between those two that you have to deal with them, you probably prefer to
You
contact
want me to make a video, I can make a TikTok video, tint my windows.
Kayla over
Yeah.
there. Okay. All right. Well, let me go over there, tell him to cut the because obviously it's unacceptable.
I'm using static cling tint because it's in the camper. But it's the same principles. You don't technically have to use soapy water with static cling, but I do it just like regular window tint. And I already did one of the windows with like regular window tint, like adhesive tint. You want to use adhesive tint in cars because all the vibrations plus rolling it up and abrasion. But if you're doing like a house window, right, it doesn't go up and down all the time. You're not worried about that. Static cling is something good that you can practice with. And if you have to pull it off, it doesn't leave glue behind. Regular window tint, the adhesive, it's good for cars, like I said. It's good for if you got curved windows, like your back glass or your windshield is usually curved, tapered, because you can shrink it with a heat gun if you have to. A lot of times you don't have to, but you can. What sucks about it is when you pull it off, it leaves all the glue and shit, half on the window, half off. Yeah.
I would notate, and we have to get in quick succession. So if they continue to like say, "I'm gonna burn your house down again," bitch," or something like,
It's the same principle. You just need. I wouldn't run static cling tint, even though some people do. I've seen a bunch of people do it. Even a guy I watched was doing a tutorial the other day. Was using static cling on his pickup truck. I feel like traditional adhesive tint is probably better for a car.
Oh, he will once he sees you guys. Probably, if I know him like I have, he sees you guys, he's gonna flip out and blow my phone out, or he'll show.
He'll show up out here on my property. So he's basically telling him he's going to fight you. If you go up there, he's going to start some shit. Also, one big thing that people make a mistake with tinting is they just go buy the cheap shit at Walmart. Get some good quality tint that isn't going to fucking rip. That's got some thickness to it. So there's 3 different types of tint. You have dyed film, which is basically plastic film with dye in it. It makes it darker, but it really doesn't block a whole lot of UV or heat or nearly as much heat. Then you got carbon impregnated, which actually has carbon in between the sheets. It's like a super thin sheet. It does a little bit better at blocking, but doesn't really block UV. It just blocks visible light, and it lasts a little bit longer, so it'll be tougher. And then the Cadillac is ceramic, so it actually has micro particles of ceramic in it that actually helps reflect the heat and becomes a big heat sink. A lot of people can't afford the ceramic. I would not get dyed film. It's a thing that people used in the fucking 80s, but it's kind of outdated now. I would either get carbon impregnated or ceramic if you can afford it. Ceramic's the best. But if you're doing it yourself, you've never done it before, I might get carbon just to practice with, or even dyed film to practice with.
Up here on my property, and these doors ain't that strong.
I'm sure.
I won't hit a girl. I don't care if he's transitioning or not. I'm not gonna hit a girl.
Yeah, I hear you.
Even if it looks like a bullfrog. But you'll see when you get over there.
He said even if it looks like a bullfrog. I won't hit a girl, even if it's transitioning. I'm not going to hit a girl, even if they look like a bullfrog.
All right.
So what do I do with all the stuff I bought?
Wow.
I paid for it with cash.
So your name's not on that house?
No, Kayla's is. And Kayla's trying to figure out a way to get him out of there because he don't work, he don't have a job, he has no way to pay for that place.
And he's claiming that that's his property and all that?
That's what his name has Glassman in it. Maybe he knows more about window tint. All I know is I've always done my own cars, but
Then you gotta take him to someone.
It's rented. It's
you can still watch the video. You don't need TikTok.
Yeah,
it
you
just
have to-
opens it in your browser.
You're gonna have to take down.
No,
that
I own
film.
this.
Yeah, if Kayla's on there and she wants her out as well.
Well, I think she's got messages of her threatening too. So her.
Yeah. Dyed film after a while starts to look purple. It almost has a blackish purple hue when you first put it up, but once it's baked in the sun, it turns purple.
He's gonna have to get her evicted. So.
Yeah, the landlord's already been involved.
Wait, so you're not the landlord?
Oh, the house? Absolutely not. I would never buy that property. You're nuts.
Okay, we'll go talk to him.
Be warned, violent person.
Yeah. Well, if they continue it, then they're gonna get 941.
Well, I'm gonna say you guys are gonna, if he's in the mood that he's in and he starts freaking out, man, you're gonna have to tussle.
Good.
The police arrived at the residence, but Jaden refused to come out.
Yeah, all you need is a link. It'll open it in Chrome or whatever. You don't have to have an account.
Jaden, come on out. Jaden, come on out, man. Jaden's Deputy Dayhard, Smith County Sheriff. I'm outside your house.
So I'm guessing they're calling him at this point.
Please come to the door. We need to talk. You are not under arrest. I'm not here to take you into custody or anything. But you need to come to the door and talk to us. Jaden, I know you're in there.
Is this a gerbil cage at the back of
Come
the
to the door.
house?
We need to talk. You are not under arrest. I'm not here to take you into custody or anything. But you need to come to the door and talk to us. Jaden,
Rabbits?
I know you're in.
Could be a rabbit. Looks like a rabbit.
You're in there. So listen up. Come to the door right now and explain your side of things. You will be charged with harassment and a criminal summons will be put out for you. So that means whenever you are found and met, you'll be brought to court. You understand that? There's charges.
So this cop basically called his boss and it's like, hey, I got this. He won't come to the door. I know he's in there. Blah, blah, blah. Whatever. And the cop's like, well, you can go ahead and charge him with harassment. It just won't be aggravated harassment.
probably behooves you to come outside. Come outside and talk. All right, then harassment it is. Let's go.
After declaring that they would be issuing charges for harassment, the police went back to the caller's residence to inform him that
The rabbit is transitioning to a gerbil.
they would be processing the charges.
Talk to my sergeant. We can do a harassment charge. She's not immediately going to get arrested.
My Jeep actually got tinted at a tent place. With carbon impregnated. It's 5% on all the back and then 20% up front driver, front passenger to make it legal. Then the strip across the windshield. I think I paid $140, but that's been years ago. Because somebody just told me the other day there was some tent messed up, so they got two windows and the strip across the windshield, and it was $300 for them. For just those three pieces. So I'm sure it went up like everything else. And it depends on what the tent you use and shit. I was out of town or I would have tinted the Jeep. I like tinting windows. It takes some time to get out all the bubbles and stuff, but it's something I can just concentrate on, put my headphones in and just fuck with it.
But that means I'm going to submit this paperwork to the court. The court's going to say, okay, go give her a criminal summons, technical arrest, and then she'll have to show up to court. If she doesn't, then she's going to get a warrant. So
She answered the door, did she?
She did not answer the door. What happened was I got the go-ahead for the harassment, and when I came back over to the window where I knew where she was at, opens up the window blinds, get the fuck off my property. Perfect. So,
Technically, it's not her property. Technically, you can be there either way.
well, either way, like, they didn't want to talk to me, so I got to fill out a information real quick. So that's just the criminal summons portion, and I'm also going to have to take a statement from you.
You want me to walk over with you?
If
My
you-
mom's here with the kids. So.
If you want to hang out inside, that's fine. I also need to send you a link so you can submit that photo, that screenshot that you took from her. Okay.
Like, mom texted me. She's got a bunch of stuff too of her threatening to kill her and all, beat her up and all sorts of shit.
Okay. Yeah, she's borderline 941.
I have no idea what that is.
Mental health.
Dude, she's worse than that, dude.
As the police and the caller discussed how they would proceed with the charges, Jaden, via text messages, also made threats against the officer.
Oh, now they're threatening you.
Threatening me?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Oh, you might want to add in text time. If they think they want to take me, they better do better than one guy, because I'll fuck him up and continue to do what I need to make sure you get exactly what you deserve.
Wow. So the guy texts him again. The transitioning person texts him again and says, if they're going to take me, they better send more than one guy because I'll fuck him up. The one thing you need when tinting windows, and you could go buy a cheap one, is one of those thin, not like a carpenter would carry, but like a thin extend a blade knife so you can snap off. You always need a really sharp point because it's so thin when you go to cut it, it will try to rip. So what you do is you lay your tint on the outside and make a pattern. Or that's the way I do it. You lay your tint up on the outside and make a pattern for your window. Peel the back, take it to the inside, soapy water everywhere, and throw it on there. You still might have to trim it some, especially like down at the bottom and shit, but that seems to be the easiest way to do it.
Now she's threatening death.
What's that?
Exactly what you deserve to be gone.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, like I said, now she's saying she's going to try to get me for stuff that happened 8-9 years ago. Stupid stuff.
Like what?
I stole my kid's mom. My kid's mom was fooling around with her at the same time.
What,
You know,
just-
young, dumb.
Just fooling around stuff?
Because I was doing my wife while she was with that at the same time.
I was doing my wife while she was with that at the same time. Interesting.
Did you know her?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
All right.
Good luck.
Yeah, I'm going to go talk to her, or try to. If she continues her behavior, she just knows if she tries
They're either
to.
going to ignore you or she will.
That's
come
fine.
at you.
No worries on my end.
The officer finished up the paperwork and went back to where Jaden was. But what followed next was a violent turn of events.
Listen,
Off my property. Now he's going to tell you again.
I can be here pursuant to my
No,
job.
you can't
Yes,
be
I
here.
can.
No, you can't.
I'm here
Goodbye.
to tell you that you're formally
Goodbye.
trespassed. If you go over there, you're going to get an.
I don't give up. Get off my
I can
property
be
now.
pursuant to my job.
Goodbye.
What are you going to do about it?
You want to know? 'Cause I'll be.
So he says, what are you going to do about it? But she kind of chases him off the property here.
Right out of you, dude.
Yeah, okay.
Or he,
gonna come
whatever. I don't know.
Really? You're going to at me right now?
Get the fuck.
So it kind of does look like a bullfrog. I'll agree with that. Not like an X-Acto knife. Hold on. Knife. Like, see these two right here? See these two right here? This is $2 at Walmart. You want this thinner one to go around the curves and shit. And when a blade gets dull, you just push it to the end and snap it off, and you get a new one. So for like, you could buy this for like $3 and do your whole car. An X-Acto knife would be nice. You just need a shit ton of blades for it, and they're more expensive. This thicker one will work too. It's just harder to go around curves with it because it's wider. But when these get dull, you just move them to this score line right here. You move this score line to right here, and then just snap it off with a pair of pliers, your boot heel, whatever you got handy, and you got a brand new blade. Does kind of look like a bullfrog though. Feeling I don't give a fuckish today. That makes sense.
Off my
Get away
property.
from me now.
What are you going to do?
Back away. Get back in your house.
I don't have to. This is my yard.
You don't want to touch
So I'll walk you to the road. How about
I'm
that?
working on
Come
it.
on.
He says you don't want to touch me.
Walk you to the road. How about that?
I'm working on it.
All right. Well, don't come back. Because if you
can't
do.
tell me what to do.
Yeah, I can.
No, you can't.
Yeah, I can.
No, you can't.
It's my house. And I can take you off any time I want unless you have a
No,
warrant.
pursuant to my job, I'm allowed to be on your
No,
property.
you can't.
Well, so the cool thing about the new tinting places is they have plotters, like giant vinyl cutters. So they buy their tints in a roll. They buy a tint in a roll for the different whatever grades and different percentages of light. And then they run it through a vinyl cutter. They type in your make and model of your car, and they pay for a service that's already fucking done all the measurements. So if they type in you have a 2020 fucking, I don't know, Nissan Titan, it cuts it out already for them. So they just bring it over and throw it up there. They don't have to do the measurements and cutting anymore if they got a plotter like that. Uh-oh.
Stephanie Jmal just resubscribed for
Thank you.
22 months.
Thank you for your subscription. I appreciate it.
I'm on property.
Excuse me?
Get away from me.
Excuse
I'm
me?
on the road.
I don't give a f.
Do you need to be
It's free
right?
land. I can walk wherever I want.
All right, so you'll see this person basically bump chests a couple times here.
Just like you can, right? Am I right or am I wrong? You get away from my house.
I'm not on your property.
It's still my house. You're still right here. Goodbye.
Here's something else.
Yeah, you are.
Listen, if you go back over there,
I ain't about over there.
get away.
All right, so that was a chest bump and the shove. We got a little under tit tuckage.
Right now.
Oh, we're going live.
Take it off. Take it off.
Getting kinetic, baby.
Get away.
No, you ain't gonna shove me like that.
Yeah,
I don't know who the fuck you think you are.
You're getting in
Just
my
because you
face.
got this.
The police. Now she's punching his back. Just cause you got this, hitting the badge. That's gonna get another shove, I'm sure. Damn it, what did I do? Oh, I put it in theater mode.
Don't be.
There we
Wait
go.
for me.
You're under arrest, okay?
I am.
Yeah, you are.
Doesn't look like they're under arrest.
Get
Now they
the
picked
fuck
up their
off.
shoe.
Due to Jaden's aggressive behavior, the officer decided to place him under arrest, which was met with more aggression.
Get.
You're arrest. Right, there's some vibing control. I gotta combat subject.
He's gonna run to the porch and block the steps.
You're under arrest.
No taser, surprisingly.
You're under arrest. Get on your stomach. Off.
Get on your stomach. Fuck off.
Get on your stomach now. Get on your stomach now. Come on.
We get it, Itsuko. You're from China. You're Asian. Yeah. Make everything about Asian people.
Moments later, backup arrived on the scene to help the officer in detaining Jaden.
On your control. One detaining. Help me here.
We got it. Take. He's good. Put him on his side. Take a second. Take a second. You ready to
Little
get up?
ass crack
You know, I
hanging
feel
out
my whole
there.
body's numb.
My whole body's numb. I got carpal tunnel. So yeah, with that much weight, I'm sure they could push around, but all you gotta do is get them off balance. Like when they're coming to push at you, if you just step back and pull them, they're done. They can't move fast enough to catch themselves.
Fucking carpal tunnel.
Guess what? Pick the wrong guy to mess with.
You want to go to the ground?
I think the person's just crazy, right? Because the cop was leaving, trying to get in the car. And all they told them was that there would be a summons to court for the harassment. If they didn't show up, they'd issue a technical warrant to go pick them up and bring them to court, basically.
Quit that right now. Do not with us. Blow me.
Blow me, bitch. They're blurring it because of the butt crack.
Which car? You want me to put it in your duty. You got him double locked? Yeah.
I think it's funny when they get a big person and put them in that's not being cooperating. They put them in the smallest car they can find. Put them in that Volkswagen Beetle that the resource officer drives.
Relax.
As a consequence of their actions, Amanda Wilder, or Jaden, was arrested for assault, second degree of resisting arrest and harassment, fourth degree of obstruction of governmental administration, and second degree of criminal mischief. This fight gone wrong happened on May 9th, 2021. A Marion County Sheriff's deputy responded to a report of a woman identified as 24-year-old Michaela Renee Matheny, who was threatening to fight people in the Paradise Bar and Lounge. An off-duty deputy reported that he reached out to the sheriff's office for assistance and then tried to prevent Michaela from assaulting customers.
She felt the need to grab my feet.
I am mildly intoxicated.
And she won't listen. She's pissed wrong.
You know what I'm saying, Justin? Tyrone.
Why is he Tyrone? Because he's black. Is that Tyrone? That's Tyrone.
Tyrone. So this is a different one. We might watch it later. We got to get to Derek Johnson without Tyrone. Why is he Tyrone? Well, because he's black. Let's go to Derek Johnson. And Roseanne might put him in his place, someone said. No, she's going to lick his ball sack. She's going to kiss his ass plumb up into red. Here we go.
There. All right. But when you look at
Oh, shit.
that,
How'd that do
I
that?
don't like it. I'm going to stick to it.
Greetings, Earthlings, and humans, and others, and any members of the animal kingdom who like to tune in because they love my voice. They understand that finally a voice of intelligence has pierced this realm of bullshit. Welcome to the Roseanne Barr Podcast.
So you see, my patience is growing.
I've got a big banger show today. We're going to tell you stuff that you may not know, that you might have missed, that you may be ignoring, and it's time to wake up, and I'm glad I have a genius of a guest, Derek Johnson. Hi, Derek.
Good to see you.
Good to see you, too. I see you change out of your baseball cap into your cowboy hat. That's good
Yeah.
for Texas.
It's great for Texas, but it's great for America too.
It sure is.
Yeah, she believes all this stupid Q shit. All of it.
So
The cowboy, the Midnight Rider. Hold up this book.
I got it right here. I'm all ready. You have one there too.
Yeah, but I can't.
The cowboy, the Midnight Rider, who's never seen a horse.
It's signed by Derek, so this is very special to me.
Everybody go get that book, and I'm sure they'll run to get it after we talk today. So anyway, your task today, Derek, should you choose to accept it, is to get my son Jake, who's always going, "Oh, Mom, you're that's all on the internet. That's not."
So her son Jake knows she's fucking crazy. He tries to be polite here. I don't think he buys the bullshit, but he's polite, right? It's like hanging out with your mom's crazy friend, I guess.
Because when I say Trump is still commander-in-chief, this guy freaks out. But I told him, you have no right to an opinion since you weighed 10 pounds at birth.
Yeah, it's
so
not,
you just
fun.
be quiet.
It's a fun show, but I just want to say
You have no right to opinion because you weighed 10 pounds at birth. How can you love Rose? She's been crazy for years. You guys, she was best friends with Kirsten W. CCP.
It's the reason I have a problem with it is when she was like on PBD's podcast. Patrick Beck, they have a huge podcast. She was brilliant. Did an hour.
Yes. Derek Johnson is a fake cowboy that shows up in a regular baseball cap like I'm wearing, but when he goes to make an appearance, he has to put on his cowboy hat.
For 56 minutes, she's blowing people away. I'm reading the caption.
I forgot that. You're right. Legend.
It's like, I had no idea Roseanne was this smart. That's what I want, right? And then sure enough, with like 3.5 minutes left, she's like, well, Trump's still in charge, you know? And they were the whole and then my phone blew up and I was like, here we go. And I just think it takes away from all the other stuff. You're right. You have a right to an opinion.
But it doesn't. It shows that we're out in front.
She loves Scott McKay as well.
Because people haven't put it into focus yet. And you are excellent at putting it into focus. I've watched all your videos, every single thing you've done. And your mind is an incredible machine.
Can you explain who he is for people who don't know him?
Derek Johnson, go on BitChute, Rumble. He's all over the place. And he's been explaining what's going on under devolution. And is that what we call it?
Well, it's a lot of terms there. Devolution is just one tiny little piece of it. There's reconstitution, but it's really a military occupation and a continuity of operations running.
These people are so dumb. They think the only way that the word reconstitution can be used is to write a new constitution. But a simple search would tell them what the word means, right? It's like to reconstruct, to rebuild. You can reconstitute anything. Building something up again, I think, would probably be the better definition. So when we're doing like documents for like emergency fucking continuity of government shit, and they say reconstitute, they're just using the word the way it fucking means. They're going to build up the FBI again. They're going to build up the NSA again. If their leaders, got killed in a nuclear attack or bombed by Russia or something, we're going to build up this branch. We're going to build up this agency. I don't know why the fuck they think that reconstitute means to write another constitution.
Simultaneously. And it's
what does that mean exactly, Derek?
Well, so there's two things that I tell people all the time. Our whole life, and I've already admitted how old I am to the public now. I kept it secret in country music for a long time because it's a big deal. Like to try to get a record deal, things like that. You couldn't be certain ages as a male, so I kept my age secret as much as I could. So I tell people I'm 41 years old, and that's not one of those I'm a man kind of things.
I keep my age secret so I can write these bangers out here, like right beer right now. It's beer time somewhere. Beer dog truck. That's what I call living. Beer babes back roads. Let's take a drive. Beer dog beer. My famous single that came out.
Like you've seen some coaches out there do, but I'm like, look, I'm 41, and in my whole lifetime, I've heard people say that that's Congress's job, and it'll just work itself out, and that's what Congress gets paid to do, and I'm like, well, but if we want something that works for all of us, then what's that look like? Well,
if we want something that works with all of us, what's that look like? That looks like you becoming involved, not only voting, but having conversations with your local leaders, writing letters, spending your money with companies that support your agenda, holding people accountable. One of the worst things with politics is people fucking forget every election cycle. Like, everybody will be in an outrage because this, we'll start smaller, this mayor or this senator or representative, state level, did this thing that they said they weren't going to do, and then it comes time to vote, and they either don't show up because it's not a presidential race, right? Or they completely forget, and they're like, I remember that name, I'll vote for him.
I'm a live and let live guy. I've always been that way. And unless you know me, you wouldn't know that. But a lot of people that know me know I'm a live and let live guy. And there's a lot of terms that have been misconstrued, butchered, twisted. They don't mean what they're supposed to mean. Right. All these different things. But there's two things that's going on right now. You can either stay with the drama and the propaganda and the what we call mainstream news. All that you can either stick with that, which
what's actually happening in the world. Like Joe Biden's the president, you might not like it, but yeah, some people didn't like when Trump was president or Obama was president. Like, we get it. COVID happened. That was real. The world, a lot of people at war. Russia's got some ships off the coast trying to do a show of force. Or you can believe that Donald J. Trump is secretly the president. All of the cases against him are theater. They're a movie. He's secretly in control with the military. This is set up with JFK when they tried to assassinate him, and he's going to be one of 3 world leaders that meets with the aliens to rule the world after he announces that he's been the secret president the whole time.
normally gets you riled up, upset, mad, bitter, frustrated, all these things. Or
beer battered country fried square dance. Basically.
Or you can come over to the backside of what is actually taking place. Our nation runs on laws and orders. Now, they have to be enforced. There ain't no doubt. They do have to be enforced. But I show people where there was a line drawn in the sand. And then, so being an Army veteran, I'm not the most decorated Army veteran. I'm not the most anything. I don't ever claim to be. However,
he's not what decoration? I mean, you got GWAT. Everybody got GWAT, right? Global War on Terror. So if you joined...
Matter Tank Kids just resubscribed
Thank
for
you.
15 months.
Resubscription, I appreciate it. So if you joined during the Global War on Terror, you got GWAT, GWOT, Global War on Terror badge, and you graduated boot camp in AIT. Ooh, pretty decorated. I'm not the most decorated. You're not decorated at all, motherfucker.
I listened to all of my peers and my elders, my family that were military, but also those I served around and served under. And so I show people there was a line drawn in the sand. In every war we've ever had in history, even I don't like calling them good wars, but when there's been like the Alamo, yeah, right? Those men back in that era, if you raised a white flag, you were considered a coward. If you left, you were considered a coward. You were considered a hero by standing in and fighting for what you believed in, even if you died. So there was a line drawn in the sand, and that was by William Barrett Travis. He drew a line in the sand, said, "Men, if you stand on this side line with me, you're going to die right here. However, you're going to die a hero." And then he wrote a letter called Victory or Death, which also really backs up what our founders, someone yelled, "What, give me liberty or give me death." And I tell people, it's a lot more powerful coming from a wealthy man saying, "Give me liberty or give me death," than it is a poor man. Yeah. All of our founders were wealthy, successful businessmen, farmers, whatever. They were successful, basically. Yeah. When a wealthy man or successful man says, "Give me liberty or give me death," and he means it, by all a lot more weight. You fast forward to Alamo, the line in the sand.
He doesn't know who said it, right? I think it was Patrick Henry at the Virginia Convention. One of our founding fathers, I think, said it. And, he was probably wealthy because the other founding fathers were wealthy. So that was probably what happened. Because the other ones were pretty... So he was probably... somebody once said that.
Victory or death. Well, that letter was saying, we're going to stand right here, we're going to fight. If we get more ammo, if we don't, we're going to fight. Well, they all died that day. There was a line drawn in the sand. There was a line drawn in the sand in 2016. And what I showed people was that if you feel like, wow, this something don't look right.
It might have been the second Virginia Convention, maybe.
I got a small dick, but wait till it get hard. She gonna be like, damn, shit, my God.
Listen to you every morning on the way to work, half an hour ride. You make it easier. You are hilarious. Thank you, Gary. I appreciate it. Thank you for that. Actually, I think I just responded to something you said on Patreon the other day. Thank you for the donation, though. I appreciate it.
Why do they have a guy who sounds, even if Biden was a good guy, okay, I'll play devil's advocate. If he was a good guy, good person, why would you still let him look like that? Why not? A lot of people hear impeachment and they hear invoking the 25th as just always a bad thing, like they're a criminal. It doesn't always mean that. They put that in place just in case.
Because everybody knows that Biden has whatever you want to call them, senior moments, whatever's going on. So does Trump. I'll agree with you that we need a younger candidate. We need younger people to run. We shouldn't fucking have presidents that are literally on their last leg of life, right? It should be people that can go serve as president, finish serving as president, then have to live under the laws they made. The same way with senators and Congress people. They ought to go pass laws and then go back to whoever they represented and have to live under those laws they passed.
So I had a stroke. You had a stroke,
yeah.
or
you shit your pants on stage,
or that. Yeah. Exactly. And you're like, whoa, you keep doing that. You keep pooping your pants. What's up? Right? But they put it in place for good reasons. So I show people that, look, by our standards of our foundation, what did our founders do? They started a war, taxation without representation. They wrote the Declaration of Independence in the middle of that war. Then came the Constitution.
Right.
So Abraham Lincoln tells people the Constitution is not the most important thing in our history. It's important, it's vital, but the Declaration gives us the rights. And what does the Declaration say? We the people, we're the government. And it says any nation that goes against its foundation can.
I think the Declaration of Independence has its importance because it made us the country, right? It declared our independence. They're both important. But the Constitution sets up how every fucking thing works. So one document says, hey, we're going to be this, we're going to do this, we're going to be our own country. And the other one says, this is how we're going to do all of that.
And be all thrown. Right. Well, that don't mean violence and things like that. It just says, hey, like if we can talk it out and work it out that way, that's a better option. But they do say it is their right, it is their duty to overthrow any government that goes against its foundation.
Right.
That's your roots. When people say stuff about the Constitution.
Here's, if you've never read the Declaration of Independence, here it is. Congress, July 4, 1776, the unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes obstructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. So you don't just change the government every time you have a whim or you don't win or whatever. Not light and transient causes. And accordingly, all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when, in a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient suffering of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having indirect object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. Well, that's the first part. I'm gonna finish reading it. But basically, what they're saying is they're laying out their cause. They're saying, look, we believe that when men are governed, they should live under a government and follow their laws until it gets to a certain point. And that point should be extreme. It shouldn't be, I don't like the guy, or he offended me somehow, or I don't like his wife. But when we get to that extreme point that we can no longer live under this, that's when men have to stand up and say, we are separate from you. We are dissolving this government. We will make our own and govern our own. And this was a big deal back then, right? Just being there while this was being talked about before it's even written down is a death sentence, okay? And that's where it starts. Now, they say, to prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. And this is their claims. This is their charge, or like a charging document against King George. What has King George done? This is This is what men should do in general. This is what we're going to do, and here's why we're going to do it. This is what he's done. He has refused his assent to laws, the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained. And when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them. So he's saying he's refused to approve these laws we need, okay? And when his governors pass laws, they're not allowed to unless they pass them and then pause them until he gets to see them and says, yes, that's good. And these are laws that we desperately need. He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people unless those people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only. So he's saying, they're saying he's making these concessions like, I'll pass your law you desperately need, but you're not going to get representation, right? You're not going to have a voice. If you drop this silly little, we want to be represented, I'll pass your law for you. He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public records for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. So he's treating the legislator, he's trying to tire out the legislator. He's saying, we'll meet over here, we'll meet at this time, and we're hiding from people who might want to listen in. And he's making them run all around chasing him, right? And fatiguing them into compliance. So making them so fed up with it, they finally agree with him. He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness his invasions on the rights of his people. So when he doesn't like a law that's passed, he dissolves the representatives. He just gets rid of that body. And then he always opens it back up, but he puts new people in place that will agree with him. He has refused for a long time, after such disillusions, to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers, incapable of annihilation, have returned to the people at large for their exercise, the state remaining, in the meantime, exposed to all dangers of invasion from without and convulsions within. So after these dissolutions where he gets rid of everybody, he causes, that's what I just said, he gets other people elected, and these other people are just people that would agree with him. So imagine if Biden come in tomorrow and he wanted the Senate to pass a law, and they didn't. He said, okay, the Senate's dissolved. And that everybody left and went home. He said, you're fired. And the next day he said, Senate's back open, but only people I pick are going to be on it. That's what the king was doing. He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states for that purpose, obstructing the laws for neutralization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of lands. He's trying to keep less people from coming to the United States. He's trying to control what's in the United States and what's not in the United States, and trying to convince people not to go to the United States. He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent of laws or assent to laws for establishing judiciary powers. So he's fighting them with setting up a justice system. He has made judges dependent on his will alone for the tenure of their office and the amount and payment of their salaries. So the reason we have judges, the direct reason we have judges for lifetime appointments, is because when we did our Declaration of Independence, the judges were held up to whether they agreed with the king or not. And if they didn't agree, they would lose their jobs. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. So all his friends get government jobs, basically, and they come over here and fuck with us. He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislatures. So he keeps a standing army here to keep us in line, even though we're not at war. He has affected to render military independent of and superior to the civil power. So he's ruling with an iron fist. Yeah, we have some civil people that work here and pass laws or try to, but the military is always a threat that's here. He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and acknowledged by our laws, giving his assent of their acts of pretend legislation. So even though we pass laws, we're trying to do it's all like playing pretend because he's still technically in charge. For quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, for protecting them by mock trial from punishment for any murders. So he keeps these troops here, and we have to quarter them. He protects them when they go to trial, including for murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states, for cutting off trade with all parts of the world. We weren't allowed to trade with anybody. For imposing taxes on us without consent, unilaterally putting taxes on the new colonies without their consent. For depriving, in many cases, of the benefits of trial by jury. So, it's a judge that they have to agree, the judge has to agree with the king or the judge loses his job. For abolishing the free system of English laws in the neighboring province, establishing therein an arbitrary government, and enlarging its boundaries so as to render it at once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule to these colonies. So he's trying to do to us what he does to every other colony around the world where he has absolute rule. For taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our government. So we're trying to run our own government. He's saying, no, you can't do that, and he's abolishing it. For suspending our own legislature, declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. So he gets rid of our legislators and says, we're the legislators. We're going to handle that from here forever. We have all the power forever. He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us. So, again, if you don't do something he don't like, he says, well, I'm not going to protect you, and we're going to declare war. We're going to use troops to get you back in line. He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coast, burned our towns, and destroyed the lives of people. That's pretty self-explanatory. He is, at the time, transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny, already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy, scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages, and totally unworthy the head of a civilized nation. So he's being a barbarian to us. The way he treats us with these mercenaries, foreign mercenaries, that are bringing death, desolation, and tyranny, like a barbarian. He has constrained our fellow citizens, taken captive on the high seas to bear arms against their country. This is something you can't do. He captured Americans that were on ships and made them fight against America, or colonies, people from the colony, and made them fight against their own people, to become the executioners of their friends and brethren, or to fall themselves by their hands. So he made them execute their own friends and family. He has excited domestic insurrections among us and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers the merciless Indian savages. This is pretty racist in here, but this is back in the day. So he's saying he's done insurrections in our country, right, to try and rile people up, and he has tried to get the Indians to attack us to prove that we need him, whose known rule of warfare is the undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. So they're basically saying he's trying to get the Indians to attack us because he knows they'll kill man, women, and child. At every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. So we've tried to go to him and say, hey, we want to negotiate this. We want representation. We want to talk about this. We want to do everything right. We've tried that. And instead, he basically just ignores us or injures us further. And then everything he does is literally the definition of a tyrant. The last two paragraphs. Nor have we been wanting in attentions to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our immigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity, and we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations, which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence. They too have been deaf of the voice of justice and the consanguinity. We must, therefore, acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation and holds them as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace, friends. So we even tried going to the soldiers. The soldiers ignore us. It falls on deaf ears. They just carrying out their orders from the king. Now here's the last paragraph. We, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America in General Congress assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do in the name and by the authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that the United States colonies are and of right ought to be free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do. And for the support of this declaration, with firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. So that's the U.S. Constitution. Or I'm sorry, Declaration of Independence. Round of applause. Now, historically, if you're talking about the historical effect that these documents have, some people would argue the Declaration of Independence is more important historically, because this was it. This was saying, hey, we're tired of your shit. This is what men should do. This is what we're going to do because we're tired of your shit, and this is the shit we're tired of. We'll pledge our lives, our fortunes, everything we have to make this happen. You've fucked up. We've tried to fix it. Your soldiers aren't listening. You're not listening. We're doing this thing on our own. It's basically a declaration of war. But when we're talking about the Constitution versus the Declaration of Independence on what's more important nowadays, like after we've already declared and we're a separate country, the fucking Constitution, by far, it lays out how every fucking branch of the government works. It includes your Bill of Rights, right? The first 10 amendments and how important those are. It lays out fucking everything. That's why one of them is one page, and the other one has how every piece of government in our nation works. Just logically, it's a much broader piece of work. It's huge. But Derek Johnson, the reason they focus on this, the reason they think this is so important is because it says, basically, when you're faced with a tyrant, men ought to and have a duty to throw them off and make our own government. So because they want this Trump-led revolution, they're going to always say that the Declaration of Independence is more important. They're both gigantic, super important historical pieces of work, but I think one does a whole lot more than the other one nowadays. This was huge back then. I mean, again, you and your whole family would be fucking murdered for just being in the room while they were talking about this, right? But it doesn't. Once we declared our independence and did our thing, it doesn't really have a whole lot of connection on us right now. When the Constitution definitely does, 100%.
Have you read the Constitution? Because it don't read like most people think it reads. The Constitution just says the Congress is to do this, this, and this, and the House is to do this, this, and this, and the President is to do that. It don't say what people think it says.
They're thinking of the Declaration.
And a lot of them are thinking the Declaration.
Or the Bill of Rights.
Or the Bill of Rights.
Yeah.
The Bill of Rights is the Constitution. It's the first 10 amendments to the Constitution.
Became our amendments, right? And so a lot of people are thinking that. I'm like, the Constitution is really just, this is what the House is supposed to do, the Senate's supposed to do, Congress is supposed to do, the President's supposed to do, the Vice President, and how long they're supposed to do it. And
He doesn't want to put the Constitution, he doesn't want to make the Constitution sound special because he often goes against the Constitution, 100%. He wants that Declaration of Independence to sound special because he can say, look, the deep state are tyrants and Trump is throwing them off and we're making our own government. That's why he wants to promote it so much.
Just that. It's just a basic core. So I show people what you're watching was a line drawn in the sand, and it was unexpected, but you can prove everything by laws and orders. And then when people say, I get people out there say, I don't see anything happening. I'm like,
how do laws and orders, the fucking Declaration of Independence doesn't say anything about how laws and orders are done at all, literally, other than the king struck them all down.
But because your foundation's not there. If you're a Christian, your foundation's supposed to be the Bible.
Right.
If you're a Mormon, then you have the Book of Mormon. Whatever you are, you got to have a foundation to stand on. And I tell people, even if you're crazy and you look crazy, at least have a foundation of what you stand on. Right. And that's what laws and orders are, that foundation. Legislation's that foundation. When people are arguing about politics, I'm like, do you realize the root of what you're arguing about is actually legislation? Because that's what Congress does.
Right. People don't know that either.
And they don't know that. And I'm like, so you're really just wasting argument time and energy when you could have been doing fishing, hiking, hunting, golfing,
reading a book,
doing something else besides that. Even if it wasn't a book of, like my book, Laws and Orders, even if it's To Kill a Mockingbird or something, you're still wasting your time and energy arguing about stuff that you don't realize that you're arguing about the actual premise.
Literally, Derek Johnson comes on his Telegram and his shows and screams and yells and cries and says, you don't get those messages at 3 a.m. where the soldier's going to kill himself, but he read your book and now he fell asleep. Or he literally does this every fucking time he posts anything. But he's like, look, go read To Kill a Mockingbird. Hang out, everything's fine. Trump's got us.
This is what we're talking about.
Right.
So President Trump, with
if we want to see a measurable improvement in our government, would it be better to ignore it and go read a book, or know what's going on and be part of the process? If your kid is struggling at school, would it be better to go read a book and ignore him, or go speak with the teachers and try to help him and study up on what he's studying and try to learn and try to teach it to him and go talk to the principal or get him a tutor? Of course, you want to be involved. Why are all these people telling you not to worry about it? Somebody else has got it. Don't worry. You could have read a book. Why would you want to watch the news about what's going on? It's not real. Just go read To Kill a Mockingbird. You don't have to read my book. I'll put on the cowboy hat if you read it, but you don't have to read it.
Military occupation, that is basically martial law. That's what that means, martial law. That means suspension of the Constitution, rid of habeas corpus. That's in the Constitution. I've heard even older men, that's why I stated my age earlier, because I've heard older men want to argue, and I'm like, they'll say, Constitution doesn't say that. I'm like, it most certainly does. Go look it up. It's called the suspension clause. It's when a president cannot enforce the laws.
His posts absolutely are.
Right? Well, then he can do this, but only if that. Well, that would have to be documented. It would be documented, not by the president himself. There would have been a massive Congress and different people who would have documented this. And it would have been also on both sides. It wouldn't have been a one-party deal. So this was all documented. Now, there's certain things that when people say like this, the president, when he starts his term, he's done. No. There's a presidential emergency action document that extends the power of the president. Now, it's draft classified, meaning you won't know about it, I won't know about it. But there's enough stuff around it that I can prove with military laws and military orders and federal laws and orders to prove that that would have been done. And it only takes a few things. But like I tell people, there's two things that President Trump's doing right now. 99% of America don't know the laws and orders.
Right.
So he has to keep civil rest. None of this could ever look like a dictatorship or a takeover or even a hostile takeover. Right? You can't make it look like a coup.
Right.
Right.
So what Derek Johnson is telling you right here is that Donald Trump is committing a coup, but he can't make it look like a coup. No, your posts are there. Your posts are there. Donald Trump is committing a coup, but he can't make it look like a coup. Because there's nothing else that I would have to hide. If this is legitimate, it's backed up by laws and orders. You just got to read, and somebody can explain it to you, and you can go pick up the Constitution and say, yep, this is the part that says Trump can be secret president behind the scenes, and Joe Biden is an actor who's actually working at a fake White House that's 1/3 the size, and he's been replaced by a body double because he was killed at Gitmo. Right here, number 3 on the list. Look, there's an asterisk right there. There's nothing else that I need to hide that looks like, seems like, smells like, tastes like a fucking coup, but we don't want to tell the people that.
So it had to be done lawfully via how do we operate? Laws and orders. So a continuity of operations is where you have national essential functions for what? The 3 branches of government. And I use this in all my podcasts, and it's still amazing to me. I don't know if the numbers have changed, but when I started talking and I went viral and I started having a podcast.
Oh, God, here it goes. 68% of people can't name the three branches of government.
68% of America. So 68% of 332 million people cannot name the three branches of government. Just name them.
Not surprising.
Don't tell what they do.
Right.
Just name the three. Say executive, legislative, and judicial. 68% cannot do that. So I'm like, well, why are you arguing about things that you don't even know about?
Right.
And
Because they saw it on TV.
And I'm like, you can't argue about it. And it's not healthy to argue. It's healthy to debate. It's not healthy to argue. You know,
Right.
I'm all about tough questions because I don't know all the answers because I'm not a part of the operation. I just take what Donald John Trump and the military's put out, and then I go read that on the military portion, and then I show with a training document from the Army how the federal pairs with military. And that's where most people lose it too because they don't realize they think military is a part of the government. It's not. It's a separate entity.
Okay, so just to stop here because this is really good information. It's your theory, right, that everything happening now the last 3.5 years.
The military is a part of the government. I mean, like I don't know how much what he's trying to allude to here, but I mean, the government pays your checks. The commander in chief is the ultimate command. Like, I don't know. What do you want? They pass the budget the same as if you work for the Department of Labor. Same paycheck, same everything. You ever heard of the Department of Defense? What does the Department of Defense had? It's the largest federal agency. Wonder what they do. Like 1.5 million active duty members and 750,000 civilians that work at the Department of Defense. What do you think they are?
Years as Biden as president is actually a military operation conducted and controlled and ran by Donald Trump, who's still the commander.
Yeah, he actually wears Crocs and then he slides into his boots.
Chief, right?
And I would say it too is this. That first portion, yes.
Okay.
When I say commander,
plus about 900,000 National Guard. I guess I forgot about those guys.
Chief, I want people to realize that you never. So it's a wartime president. Is that your term?
Okay.
I want you to start here. Wait.
Well, yeah.
He'll answer it. But you said a line was drawn in the sand in 2016. What was that line?
So what's amazing is this really, and that's what that book does. I tell people that book wrote itself because the military and there's been so many.
Because he just took a bunch of laws and orders and misconstrued what they mean. He didn't write anything.
People who've been stepped down now, or either they've gotten out of politics,
big resignations everywhere.
Right, whether good or bad, that are part of that book. Like multiple people wrote these laws and orders. Multiple people. President Trump's the face of the operation, beautifully because of this. He was an outsider, and then he also had a military background as he went to the military academy. And I know some veterans struggle with that, but whatever. He was a school where he was sent off. Yeah. He didn't go home every day sent off.
He knows better than the average.
Right. He knows better than the average. He's also a brilliant businessman in other manners, and some people are going to argue with that.
And
but whatever.
builder.
But a builder. Innovative. He knows a lot of people all over the world. And then the people who argue with that, well, that's just whatever. There's always going to be resistance somewhere. But in 2016, in April 2016, there's a blueprint. I tell people, now you can always pull some stuff in history, yes, and you do, because there's a lot of laws and orders they're using from history. But there's a blueprint that was put in place, basically, and I've put all those pieces together and summarized. But April 2016, Special Operations Command put out a publication. And inside that publication, it's got a diagram in there. And April 2016 has been from history, but there's a blueprint that was put in place, basically, and I've put all those pieces together and summarized. But April 2016, Special Operations Command put out a publication. And inside that publication, it's got a diagram in there. And I tell people, I joke about the old pyramid schemes. You know, I used to have buddies that would get pyramid schemes in college, and they get you the first time. Because they say, I got an opportunity. Well, that was real broad. And then the first time you hear it, it's, oh, man. But this pyramid, if it was a pyramid scheme, it's the most beautiful pyramid scheme you could ever look at. And it's a diagram, looks like a pyramid. On the side
It's a pyramid scheme.
of it says revolutionary causes.
So this is, I know what this document is. I think I have a copy of it. It's the Unconventional Warfare Pocket Guide. The Unconventional Warfare, let me make sure, Pocket Guide. You can buy it. You can buy it on Amazon. The Unconventional Warfare Pocket Guide. Now, what does this have in it? Let's see, that's page 9. The purpose of this document is to provide a pocket reference of unconventional warfare, UW doctrine, concepts, academic inquiry, and suggested supplementary reading for military leaders and planners. It's a joint publication. Joint publication 3-05.1 defines unconventional warfare as follows. activities conducted to enable resistance movement of an insurgency to coerce, disrupt, or overthrow a government or occupying power by operating through or with an underground auxiliary and guerrilla force in a denied area. So you're working with an underground guerrilla force in an area that's controlled by the other people. Point of contact for this guy is United States Army Special Operations Command Deputy Chief of Staff, G3, Sensitive Activities Division, G3X, AOOP-SA, Fort Bragg, North Carolina, 28310. Unconventional, so here's the contents. Unconventional warfare overview, terms used in unconventional warfare, components of a resistance, phase 0, steady state, phase 1, prep, phase 2, initial contact, phase 3, infiltration, phase 4, organization, phase 5, buildup, phase 6, employment, phase 7, transition, then coordinating foreign disclosure and release of U.S. TTPs, tactics, training, and procedures. Resources, law and policy, doctrine, joint army, and RSOF pubs, publications, research and science, white papers, academic studies, and other articles, books, videos, and then terms, like a glossary terms. This guide is a quick reference of unconventional warfare theory, principles, and tactics, techniques, and procedures. It is not a complete treatment of the subject. To guide further study, it includes, in annotated form, as many references as possible, starting with established law, policy, and doctrine, includes scientific studies, and finishes with recommended reading on the subject. The term UW often elicits strong responses, both negative and positive, though many have a fundamental misunderstanding of the term itself and its application supporting U.S. policy. Simply, UW is a support to a resistance movement. Historically, and most often, the U.S. supported a semi-organized, militarized, irregular force known in doctrine as a guerrilla force as part of an insurgency, such as the U.S. support to the Afghanistan Northern Alliance in 2001. This is most often due to a foreign policy decision on when to get involved. However, the application of UW is much broader and adaptive. The methods and techniques used and the planning for the operation are dependent on the state of the resistance movement, environment, and the desired end state. Support to a resistance organization in its incipient state requires significantly different planning and support than one in the war of movement state, using Mao's phases. So, from the Art of War. The first will most likely be small, very sensitive, longer in duration, and often conducted under Title 50 authority, whereas the latter is large-scale and open, as with the Northern Alliance in 2001. Thus, to prepare and train a force to conduct UW writ large, the theoretical construct must encompass all development states of the resistance, numerous environments, ideologies, and circumstances, and account for all possible paths to a desired end state. The straw man and scenarios discussed in doctrine are not prescriptive, but descriptive of a comprehensive campaign necessary to explore all possibilities and their applicability. UW has a wide range of applications in the contemporary environment, whether a textbook approach to operations supporting the Syrian resistance, preparing a partner state ahead of potential occupation, or enabling a tribal group to resist Daesh occupation in an Iraqi city. Special operations commanders must understand UW theories, principles, and tactics, and adapt them based on circumstances, the resistance, the opposition, and the desired end state. This guide will help commanders and their staffs to find the relevant information necessary to understand and conduct UW, unconventional warfare. Now, this is all, it literally lays all of this out for doing this in foreign countries. This has little to nothing. This has little to nothing to do with anything in the United States. The apostrophe is not in the wrong spot. You're just reading it wrong. Derrick's Johnson. It has nothing to do with the United States. It has nothing to do with Trump. It has nothing to do with our special military command supporting Trump out in Mar-a-Lago. It has nothing to do with it. And then what he cites here, this tower says, a government in exile is a government displaced from its country of origin. yet remains recognized as a legitimate sovereign authority of a nation. When does this happen? Well, when what we call, now you gotta the terms here are very loose. What we, the United States, might call rebels, Russia or China or somebody might call them the legitimate government. But from our point of view, when rebels take over the presidential palace or whatever and drive that the leaders seek a place to stay in exile, somewhere safe in a foreign country, and we still consider them the leaders, then they're a displaced government. When we want the rebels to win or care less, then the rebels are now the accepted government. You see what I'm saying? Because we sometimes play both sides, no sides, one side, it doesn't matter. But a government in exile is not Donald Trump secretly won the election, but there was cheating, so he caught it all, so now he goes to Mar-a-Lago and hangs out. That's not what they're talking about. It tells us right here. We're going to read all this. Hold on. A shadow government consists of governmental elements and activities performed by an irregular organization that replaces the governance functions of the existing regime. Examples include security, health services, taxations. Members of the shadow government can originate from any element of a regular organization, underground, auxiliary, or guerrilla force. The shadow government operates in the denied area of an occupied territory. So a shadow government would be a government you place in place, but it's like underground, right? Even though they say government A is in charge, government B is the underground guerrilla tactics, and they've set up their own government and provide government stuff like security or health services or taxation, right? But they're a shadow government. They're a second government running behind the scenes. A government in exile is a government displaced from its country of origin, yet remains recognized as legitimate sovereign authority of a nation. Recognized is a big deal. He tries to say that he's a wartime president. He's a president in exile. Nobody recognizes him. We would all be recognizing him as president. It says recognized, yet remains recognized as a legitimate sovereign authority of a nation. A government in exile will normally take up sanctuary in nearby allied or friendly nation states. Figure 2 below, which is what he's talking about here, depicts the typical activities conducted by an insurgency or resistance movement. Most of all of the represented activities will be conducted by a successful resistance or insurgency, regardless of whether the USG makes the policy decision to support it, the U.S. government. The USG support to resistance, unconventional warfare, is initiated by either a presidential finding or an exord, E-X-O-R-D. UW then proceeds generally following a 7-phase conceptual model called the 7 phases of unconventional warfare. Now, again, we have this. We have overt and we have covert, clandestine. And it says, blue is public component activities. Okay, the first ones we're going to look at would be public component activities, and they are in blue. The very first one is negotiated settlements. The second blue one says international strategic communications. So those will be public components. Now, red is armed component activities. And that first red one there says large-scale military and paramilitary actions. Those are armed components. Minor military and paramilitary actions. Those, again, are armed component activities. Now we go back to blue, and it says shadow government activities. Shadow government activities is at the split. They can be both. They can be overt and clandestine. We have a black one that says increased political violence, terror, and sabotage, underground. We have negotiations with government representatives. That's public. We have intense sapping of morale of government, administration, police, and military. That's underground. Increased underground activities to demonstrate strength of revolutionary organization, underground. Sabotage and terror to demonstrate weakness of the government, underground. Overt and covert pressures against government strikes, riots, and disorders, underground. Intensification of propaganda, increase in disaffection, psychological preparation for revolt, underground. So these are all the things that you would do with an underground military if you're preparing to overthrow the government, right? You want the people mad. You want them ready to revolt. You want to stand up against strikes and riot, or stand up and have strikes and riots and disorder. You want to demonstrate a weakness of the government. If you can go and kill somebody the government's supposed to be taking care of, you show that they're touchable, right? The best people to fuck with are those that think they're untouchable. Expansion of and coordination among resistance networks, underground. Establishment of formalized resistance elements, appeal to extraterritorial support infrastructure, underground. Spreading subversive organizations into all sectors of life in a country's region, underground. Penetration into professional, social, and political organizations and into all parts of society, underground. Recruitment of like-minded individuals. Also, while we're talking about this, yes, this is supposed to be based on stuff that we do in foreign countries to overthrow a government, but doesn't it sound a lot like the QAnon people? Subversive, spreading subversive organizations in all sectors of life in a country or region. In establishment of formalized resistance elements, militias. Expansion of and coordination among resistance networks. Intensification of propaganda, increase in disaffection, psychological preparation for revolt. Overt and covert pressures against government strikes, riots, and disorders. Penetration into professional, social, and political organizations and all parts of society. Recruitment of like-minded individuals and others. Indoctrination and use of these for organizational purposes. Infiltration of foreign agents and agitators and foreign propaganda material, money, weapons, and equipment. Increased agitation, unrest, and disaffection. Infiltration of administration, police, and military, and natural organizations, and slowdowns and strikes. Assassinations, forming favorable public opinion, advocating national causes, create or distrust of established institutions. Creation of distrust of established institutions. Well, the entire government, anybody who's ever went against Donald Trump, the media, the banks, the system, fucking car manufacturers, CEOs, any company we suddenly don't like. This is QAnon. I don't think that the QAnon movement just fell into place and hit at the right time to where it blew up like this. I think people always wanted it to go like this because it follows this so well, as if they're an insurgency in our own fucking country. Creation of an atmosphere of wider discontent through propaganda, lies, and political and psychological effort. Discrediting our government or their government, police, and military authorities. Dissatisfaction with political, economic, social, administrative, and other conditions, national aspiration, independence, or desire for ideological and other changes. That's all laid out, and it says, and there's two more marks on the side if you see the chart here, and it says preparation of revolutionary cadres and of masses for revolution. So this lower section divided by this dotted line is how to get the masses ready for revolution. And then up here we have stuff that's obviously war, right? Negotiations, international communication with other countries, and then paramilitary activities is what's up here. Minor and major paramilitary activities. Trump basically has an army, and we've seen them called to action before, most notably in D.C. All right, here we go. Back to his little chart. Let's see what he says about it. I read you everything that's pertinent, all the pages up to this, so you can't say I left anything out.
Pyramid scheme is the most beautiful pyramid scheme you could ever look at. And it's a diagram, looks like a pyramid. On the sides of it, it says revolutionary causes. About 3/4 of it from the top to the bottom. You got to start from the bottom and work your way up, but it has a line.
It doesn't say revolutionary causes. It says preparation of revolutionary cadre. So cadre would be the leaders of the movement, and masses, the followers of the movement for revolution. And yeah, you can think of this as, hey, they're getting us ready to take our country back. But that's not how they use this. Most of the time, it even says propaganda, lies, deceit, rumors. Like when we use this against other countries, we're not just exposing like, hey, your leaders are the bad guys. We're making their leaders the bad guys. We make up whatever we need to make up. Oh, you like your leader? Do you know he eats babies? Oh, you like that guy? You know he drinks children's blood? Oh, you like this company? You know that they donate to the Church of Satan? It's not just about exposing these corrupt politicians. It's making up lies to make the people mad enough to revolt.
And it's got a description on every line of how do you start going into a mass population, basically, if you will. And I'm going to stick to my word that I use, and I know that some people don't like it, but I'm going to stick to it because it's a motivational word. I mean it motivationally. But a lot of Americans are lazy. And rightfully so in a good way sometimes because we're spoiled. We're supposed to be spoiled. We're the greatest nation in the world. We're supposed to be spoiled because of what? See,
we have a baseball hat for travel and a cowboy hat for podcasts.
Family traces back to the Revolutionary War. Like I have my lineage. I'm a son of the Confederacy and I'm a son of the Revolutionary War.
Here's where he lies about being a war veteran.
On one side of my family. And every one of my close relatives, my dad, my uncle, great uncles, my great grandfather, all of us war veterans. All right.
All of us war veterans. Derek Johnson has never seen a war, been in a war, participated in a war, helped a war, been fucking supporting a war. Derek Johnson's never been to war. So all of us can't be war veterans. Because all of us would include you.
Now, that's not something you want to brag about, but I'm just saying because it's there, it's there.
But he just lied. That's not something you want to brag about, but I'm going to make up a bullshit fucking lie so I could include myself in it. If it wasn't something that he thought was good to brag about, he wouldn't have included himself. He would have said, you know, my dad, my grandpa, my great-grandpa, they were all war veterans. Now, that's not something to brag about. If it's not something to brag about, why did you lie about being part of it?
There. All right. But when you look at that diagram, how do you get into people? How do you get them thinking? And how do you get the lazy and that people to care again about things that matter, not things that don't matter? All right. This diagram shows that, and it goes all the way up, and that says clandestine. It's got a little line right near the top that says clandestine, and that's that bottom portion of the 3/4, and then the top portion is overt.
Overt, covert, clandestine mean the same thing. It's the opposite of overt. Overt's out, the public, everybody sees it. Covert is the opposite. Clandestine is the opposite.
And that portion says large-scale military operations. Well, that's what you're seeing right now. But see, this was put in way back here in April 2016.
Wrong. This is just a lie. Overt large-scale military actions where? These large-scale military actions would be all over the news. Everybody would know about it. Everybody would know that the fucking Pennsylvania National Guard marched down the goddamn White House and threw Joe Biden and his ass out and put him on a plane to Gitmo. That's why it's overt. Not we need fucking some guy that calls himself Monkey that quotes the Bible to decode the planes that are flying over our head. That's not overt.
In May 2016. Now, keep in mind, who was not president at this time? It wasn't Donald John Trump. Now, I tell people, why would the Supreme Court, of all people, and that was Ginsburg and different, a lot of these people passed on or retired, but this was the old Supreme
Ginsburg?
Supreme Court, as we call it. It was traditionally more court, of all people. And then that was Ginsburg and different, a lot of these people passed on or
Ginsburg.
retired. But this was the old Supreme Court, as we call it. It was traditionally more liberal at that time period, if we will. And this is important for people to see that what everybody's been watching our whole lives, we live our life every 4 years, every 4 years. Every 4 years, a president got in the first 2 years and he destroyed everything that was back here. And then the next 2 years, it didn't matter, Republican or Democrat, they did that. Yeah. That's not checks and balances.
They literally still did that. Trump did that. He did 4 years, kind of tore some shit up, made some shit, some stuff got taken back, some stuff got passed and stayed. Trump did that.
That's not what a president's supposed to do. That's not what the government's supposed to do. That's why so many people have been duped. It's been a corporation, and we'll get in that in a minute.
So how long should the president be there if not for 4 years or 8 years? President should get 100 years. Maybe a president does 20 years, and that's the limit, but then he takes a year off, has his buddy take the office, then changes the law to where he can do 20 more years, like Putin.
Well, May 2016, what's the Supreme Court doing clarifying? They clarified this, that military courts, laws, orders, if you will, but military courts are separate from federal courts. That separates.
Guys, why would military court systems need to be separate from federal court systems? He used to say Trump's. Now, that's a fucking lie. But why would they be separate? Why would a military court system need to be separate from a federal court system? Because the military, you sign up to join the military and serve, you go under a separate set of laws. You're held to a higher standard. It's only for military people, and you agree to that higher standard. Now, you don't get some of the comforts like jury trials and shit, but if they weren't separate, when the military is pressing charges against somebody, he can just be like, oh, I want to be in federal court. Oh, I want to go to the Federal Court of Appeals. Or we could take civilians who do deserve jury trials and everything that comes along with civilian court and a federal court, and we could take them and rush them through to Gitmo. So again, Derek Johnson's own premises don't support what he says. He says that all these politicians suddenly went to fucking military tribunals. Remember, he was going to go cover them? And I told him he would never fucking cover them. He said, you idiots, I'm just waiting on the radio station to get... they didn't say I'd never go. Really? I have the email they sent to you, you fucking retard. But somehow if military is separate, military courts are separate from federal courts, why do we take these civilians and run them through military courts and kill them in Gitmo, as you claim?
Military law and military orders on paper. They're clarifying this. That was May 2016. It's called the Military Justice Act of 2016.
Was it in response to something, or they just did it out of the blue? Or?
It looks like it was out of the blue.
Okay.
So there's that April 2016.
It was clarification. It wasn't out of the blue. They had been asking for certain clarification because it was kind of vague, and they were afraid that someone would get brought up on some type of military charges and need to go through the military court system, and then make a fucking circus out of it, trying to drag it through the federal court systems.
Special Operations Command publication. Then that Military Justice Act. Then you move to President Trump was already during that time period on his campaign. February 2016. So right before that April, he was saying we're going to load Gitmo up with a lot of bad dudes.
Yeah, I remember that.
That was February. So here's February. There's April. There's May. Then you had the mainstream media, which when you go read that diagram, it's all part of it.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta create frenzies. You gotta get in and you gotta kind of shake the water. You gotta shake it. You gotta shake people up. This diagram is so perfect. Well, remember everybody, Donald Trump will what? Never be president.
Mm-hmm.
Never. That's a strong word to say. Even if you're on the other side and you absolutely hate him, that's a strong word. When you say never,
Obama said that. Yeah.
They all did.
They all said it.
They all said it.
Everybody said that about everybody they're running against. Right? We've heard that about Hillary. We've heard that about Biden. We've heard that about Obama from the other side, from their competitor. They'll never be president. They'll never win. They're not going to win. No, never. We've heard that again and again and again and again and again. Sometimes it's true. Sometimes it isn't.
Never.
That's not that strong a word for a political candidate to say about their opponent.
What happened? Now, I can prove that the military took over the elections in 2016.
No,
and President Trump just said this in Vegas. He just said it just yesterday. So we'll paint a picture. He just said it yesterday. So
let me paint this picture for you. Now, listen, Roseanne, imagine you have a watermelon you brought in here and set up on the table.
In 2016, when the way you prove it's not the 2016 year, you prove it with his laws and orders. With his executive order 13848, it was written 2 months before any election under him. And it's the election interference executive order with a national mercy, which is very key.
Mm-hmm.
Not only is it automatic law, but it also has a national mercy, which must mean this. They must be revised, revoked, rescinded, or resolved, which means terminated.
Oh, my God.
Right? Now, we've always had presidents.
Well, it's extended, so it hasn't been any of those things.
The corporation, we have an executive order with a national mercy that's still ongoing since 79. How is that an emergency?
Yeah.
It's not. That shows the corporation. So everybody's seeing, and that's why it's so difficult for people to follow me until they follow me, and they gotta break down all these videos slowly, because there's so many multifaceted operations going on what they're cleaning out, because it was never supposed to look like this in the first place. And then presidents weren't supposed to issue that many executive orders.
Right.
Not as many as Obama did.
Mm-hmm.
President Trump had to issue that same amount to undo what the past presidents had done. Bush Jr. took
Oh, okay. So a president's not supposed to use that many executive orders. Not like Obama did. But Trump had to do it to undo what Obama and Bush did. That's why. That's why he had to do that. I don't think you understand. That's why he had to do it. You're not understanding this, okay? Donald Trump did 276. I'm sorry. Hold on. Let me go back. I just lost it. George W. Bush did 291. An average of 36 per year because he was there for 8 years. Obama did 276, which is an average of 35 per year because he was there for 8 years. Trump did 220, which is a total of 55 per year. 55 per year. He was on a rate to surpass everybody, but he was undoing all the other ones. So literally, Obama only had... Sorry, let me expand this again. Obama had 56 more than Trump over 8 years compared to Trump's 4 years. Yes, to undo them, you just don't sign them again.
But this wasn't just Obama. See, it was
Well,
like
it's when they got rid of the Patriot Act.
it started with Clinton, and that's when they started heavily just bombing executive orders. So that one executive order in September 2018 is very important. Election interference. The only evidence of interference they would have had was 2016 and prior. However, when you got to prove something in court, you got to have a precedent to stand on. Yeah. We've never had a law for election interference. We've never had that. So that executive order was the precedent. All right. Well, in that order, it says, although no foreign power has altered the outcome or vote tabulation in any United States election. So that tells you right there, that's Pat's a punch. You got to break it down. Although no foreign power has altered the outcome, that means mine and your votes, just straight up regular. Right. That's pointing to a deep state.
Right.
All right. They would shift the states. That's why we have these things called swing states all of a sudden. Right. They would shift the states throughout history, and people start saying, well, Ohio's the big state this year. Nevada's the big one. President Trump said yesterday, Nevada's the big one. If we win Nevada, we win it all. That's what he just said yesterday in Vegas. Well, the swing states, that's a big deal because that would show the balance, the shift of the balance of where they needed to get someone in to affect certain things. And this is all parts, rhinos, Republicans, and Democrats. That's where Republicans, President Trump tells you all the time, just because you're Republican, just because you're conservative, don't mean you know what's going on. And that's really going to be a hard grip for Republicans and conservatives.
Just because you're Republican conservative, you're not far enough for us. You can't just say I'm a Republican or I'm conservative. You got to be a fucking Q-tard.
Right, because you got to know the basis, the foundation. All right, so that order cancels out all of our votes from that manner. It's pointing to the deep state. Then it also says you got to take altered the vote tabulation. Vote tabulation is January the 6th. See, a lot of Americans thought that January 6th in 2021 was just President Trump versus Biden because they had no clue about the state electoral counts. Right. False. January 6th is a date that every president in history has had to go through, making sure that the delegates in the states vote. And certifies it. Well, what's that clause doing there? Although no foreign power has altered the outcome or vote tabulation. That is 3 United States Code 15.
Right. So imagine if I passed a law that said no one can assassinate anybody else with a potato. Right? No one can assassinate anybody else with a potato. I might word it to say, although a potato or spud-like instrument has never been used to assassinate a world leader. By executive order, no one will be allowed to use a potato to assassinate a world leader. So he says, although no election has ever been, we've never found evidence of this happening before, we would like to put in place that this shouldn't happen, and if it does, here's the ramification for that.
Everybody in history witnessed on January 6, 2021, everybody witnessed already unprecedented something that happened. Right. And they didn't realize it. The 2 objections in the state of Arizona count. They were supposed to stop the votes. Right. The gavel was supposed to slam, stop. They were to go to a special chamber and sort out Arizona. If it took them a month, if it took them 2 months, in that 3 U.S. 15, it tells what is to take place, and guess who becomes the president if it goes over the inauguration day? It'd be the sitting vice president at the moment, right? Which would have been Pence. All right. No one saw that. Conveniently, the quote-unquote insurrection took place. Right. And then they rushed back on the TV when the dust settled, as they call it, saying this, because that's all people could see was the TV that day. When the dust settled, they rushed back in. They went from Arizona to Wyoming, certified the votes. Well, whatever.
Wrong. He is objectively lying to you. He is objectively lying to you. They argued Arizona before and after the insurrection. They argued in both houses. They argued Arizona, just like they're supposed to. It didn't get enough votes, and it certified. Like it does every year. We went back and found the footage of them arguing about it. They didn't say, okay, well, we object to Arizona. Then the insurrection happens, and they come back and they said, oh, well, Arizona's good. They argued it.
Every American witness was still a setup, because this executive order back here with the national emergency way back here September 12, 2018 canceled out November 3rd, 2020, and it canceled out January 6, 2021, because back here, this precedent is telling you, although no foreign power has altered, it was a setup. All Americans witnessed a breaking of 3 U.S. Code 15, 18 U.S. Code 2381, which is treason, 18 U.S. Code 2384 and 2385, which are seditious acts to overthrow the government.
Yeah,
all right,
absolutely.
And then 52 United States Code 20511.
Are you saying the seditious act was rushing the count?
Yeah.
After
correct.
January 6th?
Yeah, they broke the law.
Yeah, they were supposed to.
It's written in the
That's
Constitution.
what average Americans are seeing, because that's a seditious act and
rushing the count
to overthrow the government.
Yeah,
all right,
absolutely.
And then 52 United States Code 20511.
Are you saying the seditious act was rushing the count?
Yeah.
After January 6th?
Yeah, they broke the law.
That didn't happen. A lot of people withdrew their support of the objections after what happened in Trump and you're beautiful people, we love you, go home. You're special, we love you, go home.
Yeah, they were supposed to.
It's written in the
That's
Constitution.
what average Americans are seeing, because that's a seditious act, and they put Biden in. So that was that's the seditious act.
Well, yeah,
for the normal Americans, right? But the military occupation, that's what even patriots who follow me still will get, kind of confused a lot. And I'm like, you got to go back to the military occupation started back here in 2016.
That's why I was asking.
Which really started.
Okay, you remember how I was telling you that? Remember how I was telling you the other day that show The Boys like mocks the Q-tards and Homelander is basically Trump? Check out this clip if I can grab it. Hold on. I think I got it right here. Check out this clip. So there's a riot going on. People beating the shit out of each other over him. Basically, he was found innocent at this. He shot a man on Fifth Street, and people clapped for him. He was found innocent. There's a riot going on. Check this out. He's just observing it and smiling.
Everyone remain calm. We're all very special people. Stop.
Everybody remain calm. You're very special people. Stop. Stop it. Just stop. Oh, well, I tried. And then someone shows up and actually tries to stop it. I don't know. It's funny. It's funny how it alludes to it all. Oh, you're very special. Go home. Where you go? Stop it.
In 2017, if you want to say it like that, as far as like the visual when President Trump took his oath.
But you're saying January 6th, the insurrection, or the media says that we runched in.
Was that they did follow the Constitution by breaking for the recount?
No, I understand that, but are you saying
they rushed the certification?
Was the military operation January 6th?
It's a portion of it.
They did break. They did argue it. Some people withdrew their support. It did not pass. They went and argued it. It did not pass. They did it. We watched it. There's still coverage of it. You can go watch it too.
all
You're
of this
painting
is
a bit- that's what I want to know. What picture, and then just let you go. People that are listening.
And it would. I know Derek Johnson can find this. He said this the whole time that they never. So basically, what he's saying is when someone objects to the electors and there's enough votes and one wedding signature of a senator and one of a congressperson or whatever, then they go back to their chambers. So they were together, the representatives and the senators. They go back to the House of Representatives and the Senate, and they argue about it, and then there's a vote. They did that. They separated. They went back to their set. They brought up this, that, the other. The laws passed this, drop boxes, Sharpie gate. They brought up everything. It did not get enough votes to be sustained. So when they came back, Arizona went through. You can go watch it.
Like 28 minutes in, I don't really know. Like, what is your theory? Trump wanted January 6th to happen?
No.
Okay.
No.
That's what I'm asking.
No.
Okay.
The occupation and operation was already back here.
Okay.
See, when President Trump on January the 20th, that's when the visual really started on 2017.
Okay.
Right. Was he said, we're taking the power out of D.C. and giving it back to the people.
Right.
And he had the two military guys come behind him. Their headbands were military intelligence and judge advocate generals. Who collects evidence from military intel? Who judges it in court? Judge advocate generals.
Okay.
All right. So there's so much stuff that's happened, right? The court's martial handbook was changed. The Uniform Code of Military Justice was also updated. First time in history since it started in 1950. There was so much of this stuff happened way down here. All right. But building the updated first time in history, get generals.
Okay.
All right. So there's so much stuff that's happened, right? The court's martial handbook was changed. The Uniform Code of Military Justice was also updated. First time in history since it started in 1950. There was so much of this stuff happened way down here. All right, but building the foundation for the normal American to see what took place, it always starts back here. You got.
I want to know why.
You got to know what the military occupation is. You got to know.
I want to know why in 2016 they found it necessary to set up 2018 election and 2020 election. Why did they do that?
Well, because you could go by here. A lot of conservatives have always known of Dominion systems and cheating, but it's been hearsay. It's been taught. You got to have evidence on paper, lawful evidence, or no one's ever going to believe it, right? On any side of the aisle, you have to have lawful. And one of my attorney friends always says, law has to be respected on both sides. Because if the other person doesn't respect the law, you could even send someone a cease and desist, and if they don't respect that, they'll just swallow it up, throw it away.
That's true.
Until you sue them, and then. But you know, like it has. But the law is written so neutral as much as possible because it's setting a precedent, and it's also a future reference for other cases. So the law itself is as neutral as possible. It's just a matter like that's why you can't really misinterpret it like drastically. You can misconstrue it drastically, and you can butcher it drastically.
Yeah, but something must have been going on where the military said our country
look
needs.
Look at Lou Dobbs, right? He worked for CNN before. He was fired effective immediately, I think like the next day or the next business day, way back in 2008 or 9, when he said on air that the Dominion systems would have implications on future elections. It was effective immediately. Boom.
Right.
Then he was with Fox the next thing you know. So yeah, we've always had hearsay talk, and people know on the backside, but there's never been a law in place where you can walk in a court, it'd be documented back here, but then you walk in a court, let's say in 2025 and go, well, this is what you saw from 2016 and prior.
I'm 45 now.
Oh my God. Here we go.
Everything hurts. And I've been
we got a podcast ad.
You know, I don't want to get into specifics about members of our family, but I'm very close to someone in our family that's been taking pain meds, and maybe they've developed an unhealthy bond to it. And we know about the opioid crisis. So I guess what I'm getting
every family in America is touched by it.
It's the biggest crisis in America, which is saying a lot because America is basically one crisis after another. But people are in pain, and the options for us for pain are limited, and a lot of them just lead to worse pain or addiction and shit. So this product, I've seen this on the UFC. This is a real product. It's kind of new. We talk about it more, but what it does is I'll let you explain it, but it's a healthy alternative to pain relief that works.
Yes, I'm talking about conolidine, the 100% drug-free way to get full body pain relief without dangerous pills.
Okay.
As you read this,
Makes
conolidine
sense.
has become the go-to pain reliever for over 1 million Americans and hundreds of professional athletes.
Yeah, and it works if they're taking it.
Yeah, it's so powerful, it was even named the official pain reliever of the UFC, and those guys know a thing or two about managing pain, I imagine.
They need it.
Conolidine is the only compound on earth that optimizes your body's natural painkillers called endorphins at any age. When taken daily, your body will fire back to relieving pain like you were in your prime, and the best news, conolidine has no documented side effects after 14 years of extensive testing.
Amazing.
Conolidine is absolutely the future of pain relief. So whatever you do, make sure to click on the link below and check out Flint's amazingly informative report on how conolidine is changing lives by providing safe and powerful relief at 1/10 the cost of pain pills.
There's that too. It's cheaper.
Now here's the best part. When you click on the link below today, you can access the only
So some of the articles that were added for UCMJ, they don't have anything to do with anything Derek Johnson says. But they were like, most of the stuff was about, so UCMJ is major, why am I so blurry? What the fuck did you all do? UCMJ, what the fuck is going on? What happened there? There we go. It was like I was showing my dick or something. UCMJ was like major. It was written in the 50s, and it's had. He's lying about it was the first update. It was the first major update, right? Because it worked for a while, and it's a big thing to go through a whole code of justice. This would be like going through all the civil procedures in the state of Tennessee law or the federal law, right? It's a big thing to do. And people have been pressuring them and pressuring them and pressuring them to update it. It's been that way since the 50s. And for years, people have been pressuring them to, it was kind of archaic. But you know how the military moves. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, we'll just make it work. Right? Everything looks like a nail when you got a fucking hammer. So it wasn't really, people were arguing it's not really fair to service members nowadays. So most of the articles that went in, was to put new articles in. I think it was 37 new articles identifying criminal acts, because there's an Article 134 in the UCMJ handbook is basically a catch-all. So like if you did anything from like child porn to like stealing a candy bar, you were just charged under Article 134, and it was called the general article, right? And basically all they had to do was prove that it went around against the general procedures of the military and your agreement to be part of it. And everything got charged under 134. It didn't have all you had to do was prove that what you did, let's say it was child porn or, like I said, stealing a candy bar. All you had to prove was that it was harmful to good order and discipline, or brought discredit to your service or the service you served in, so the Army or whatever. Now, they added a bunch of articles as well to keep the integrity of investigations together, because there was a lot of stuff that went shady about like search warrants and witnesses and blah, blah, blah. So they added a bunch of articles about that, like they added no retaliation against service members for reporting a crime. Could you believe that since 1950, there was no protection against whistleblowers basically in the military? Subordination of perjury, right? Obstruction of justice was added. You know how long obstruction of justice has been in the federal and state court systems? Criminal court, but obstruction of justice is just added in 2019. Alteration or destruction of public records wasn't there. Deliberate concealment of one's knowledge of a serious offense. So if you knew about a serious offense to hit it, you couldn't be charged. Unless you were charged under the general 134, you couldn't be charged for any of these things. Wrongful refusal to testify. Wrongful interference with adverse administrative proceedings. Non-compliance with procedural rules. Prevention of authorized seizure of property. And then a lot was added about technology, to where we ended up adding like stalking and child porn, like I was talking about. Stalking was there, but it got changed to like emails, text message, social media posts. Electronic communications weren't added in the stalking, the portion that covered stalking. Rape and sexual assault were added. They weren't added. They were rewritten to match the same code as in like federal courts, rather than being archaic and shitty. Stuff about deployments was added when you're on a deployment, because it was written in the 50s. Again, the terminology was all different. The way we looked at stuff was different. A new law would allow commanders to convene a judge-only special court-martial in which punishment would be capped at 6 months of confinement, and there would be no punitive discharge. That would end the current practice of sometimes gathering numerous troops on a court-martial panel to decide whether and how to punish misconduct. That was a thing. Courts-martial in forward-deployed environments often are difficult because they can require as many as 10 troops off duty to participate as jurors. But now when you're overseas, you can do a judge-only court-martial when you're deployed, a judge-only court-martial without having to pull 10 or 12 people in to be a jury. You can just get a judge. But that might be, somebody might railroad you, so you can only have 6 months of confinement is the most you can have, and no monetary damage, because your commander might use that to fuck you. Oh, you think you're going to disrespect me? I'll court-martial you and say this, and I'll get a judge who agrees. So they limited it to like 6 months confinement, which sucks, but at least he couldn't kick you out and take all your money, you know, if he was trying to railroad you. But you didn't have to pull people off assignment. It's hard to do a court-martial when you're running fucking missions every day. But they made a bunch of changes. And most people in the military or that knew about military justice have been petitioning them to make these changes for decades at this point.
Lighting products in the world forever.
2020. That's why.
Well, I think it was because everyone highly / Roseanne now and see for yourself.
Tricono.
But do you think it was because everyone highly suspected that 2012 was stolen?
Well, 2020. Well, no. See, 2020. That's why.
Well,
12 stolen. Well,
that's
yeah,
why
they've
I
all
think
been
they
stolen.
put it in place.
Well,
they've all been stolen. Yeah,
they've all been stolen because of corporation. That's where most people. That's where the people that don't read get into. Oh, that's a conspiracy theory. Well, it's not, because it's written.
It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. Maybe these people didn't grow up near like a town that was established, but incorporating a town to have a mayor and aldermen or representatives or whatever you want to call them and their own laws is not the same as incorporating a business.
In history, the Organic Act of 1871 is where we borrow money from the crown, the British. All right, the very nation we fought our independence from. 1878 is when we became a federal corporation. That's written. All right, during the 1870s, when the bar started popping up in the U.S., the British Accreditation Registry.
Is that what bar stands for?
Wrong. It's not. No, it doesn't stand for that. You're a fucking liar. No one's ever claimed it stood for that.
Mm-hmm.
Not even American.
And then in 1889, there was a court case.
No, she says, not even American. Is that what it stands for? British? Yeah, not even American. No shit. He said British. It's not the British American Corporation. They're struggling with their own lies.
It's called Stoutenberg versus Hennick.
Yeah, which they asked about in there.
It outlines.
So what they're talking about when they say the law that was passed in like 1851 or whatever, it basically decided the size of Washington, D.C., made it the capital, gave some lands back to other places, but it was lawless and had fallen into disrepair. No one wanted to go to fucking D.C. because there was no laws, there was no court, there was nobody in charge that could get anything done. The Senate and Congress was trying to make all the decisions, but they weren't meeting that often. They had bigger shit on their plate. So, like, there wasn't even places to stay there. There wasn't even fucking places to stay. There was, like, whorehouses, mud, and people were shitting in the street. So they incorporated D.C. to make it a town to where they could have a mayor and a local government. Just like your town is incorporated and has a government, so you could pass laws and have red lights and a fire department and shit. That was it. That's it. That's all he did.
Lines D.C. as a foreign territory.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when the military looks at D.C. as a foreign territory, it is and I know that's far-fetched for Americans to think that a piece of land inside the U.S. is a foreign territory.
Everyone knows that. The
UN is a foreign territory. The UN
foreign territory. Yeah. That's right. So
people don't know that either.
And that's the thing that you have to get them to either believe that and know that this is how the military and the government views it. Whether you think it's crazy or not, this is how all these entities have been operating all these years with that mindset. Everything we have is man-made in the first place. Everything, right? So we have man-made rules, policies, this on all levels. You know, companies, look at your company policies. Look at, you know, so you have these. All right. So that's what we're trying to tell people. Are they all right? No, I'm not a law and order guy. Meaning, like, I think all laws and orders are great. There's a lot of laws and orders that need to be abolished. And we had a founding father who argued, are they all right? This on all levels. You know, with that mindset. Everything we have is man-made in the first place, and the government views it. And that's the thing that you have to get them to either believe that and know that this is how the military and the government views it. And that's the
military does not.
Is a foreign territory.
Everyone knows.
What's he proven that the military views D.C. as a foreign? No, they don't.
You know, when the military looks at D.C. as a foreign territory, it is and I know that's far-fetched.
No, they don't. No, they don't. Where? How?
For Americans to think that a piece of land inside the U.S. is a foreign territory.
Everyone knows that.
The UN is a foreign territory. The UN
foreign territory.
Yeah.
That's right.
Everybody knows that. Everybody knows that. No, they don't. D.C. is not a foreign territory. It's literally a place to house our government. That's not a state because they didn't want to have a state to have that overwhelming power.
So
people don't know that either.
And that's the thing that you have to get them to either believe that and know that this is how the military and the government views it. Whether you think it's crazy or not, this is how all these entities have been operating all these years with that mindset.
Where's the proof other than you just saying it and then Roseanne jumping up and down saying everybody knows that?
Everything we have is man-made in the first place. Everything, right? So we have man-made rules, policies, this on all levels. You know, companies, look at your company policies. Look at, you know, so you have these. All right.
It's also the jurisdiction is the Congress has a jurisdiction. Well, I mean, except for when they put the mayor and stuff, but that's what it is, right? It operates technically as a state, but also a city and a county. It's all one and the same.
So that's what we're trying to tell people. Are they all right? No, I'm not a law and order guy. Meaning, like, I think all laws and orders are great. There's a lot of laws and orders that need to be abolished. And we had a founding father who argued that in 1803, Marbury versus Madison. And here's a founding father 14 years after the Constitution was enacted, having to go into the Supreme Court to clarify what a law was. So imagine what we look like now versus, and he said, any statute that bears, or looks, for the people who know what bears mean, looks like a law that doesn't support the Constitution is null and void. Well, we got a lot of laws and orders that need to be null and void.
Yeah, a lot.
So it's teaching people that, so that no, I'm not.
Tell us. That's the Supreme Court's entire job, is deciding what's unconstitutional. So which one of these laws is unconstitutional? And why hasn't someone just taken on the Supreme Court? That's how we get them. That's how we get them struck down.
I'm not saying that see, people get hung up on one.
No, but wait a minute. So the corporation that took over at that time is really the Federal Reserve, right?
Well, the Federal Reserve came about under it in 1913. You had the Bretton Woods systems. You have all these different things that happened. You know, even Congress violated the Constitution in 51 by putting term limits on the president, but why didn't they put it on themselves? So that shows you another step into the corporation. Now, where's the corporation defined? You can actually look this up in our Constitution, the amended part, 28 United States Code, section 3002. You got to scroll to the very bottom of it. Boom, United States, Federal Corporation. It tells you. All right, so there's.
We'll say you always cite legit law and orders. I followed your profile.
I cite stuff because I tell people, look, I mean, look it up yourself.
So when the Federal Corporation took over, it superseded the Constitution, right?
Well, the people running it, and that's where Americans, all of us, have to.
So here's where they freak out. 28 U.S. Code 302 is definitions, and it says, used in this chapter, counsel for the United States means a United States attorney, an assistant attorney, an assistant United States attorney designated to act on behalf of the United States attorney or an attorney with the United States Department of Justice or with a federal agency who has litigation authority, and B, the private attorney authorized and contract made. A court means, these are all definitions, right? United States means, so when you're talking about United States, you can be talking about the federal corporation that people work for, that signs checks, that hires and fires people. Or you could be talking about any agency, department, commission, board, or other entity of the United States. Or you could be talking about the instrumentality of the United States. Those are the things that you could be talking about when you're citing 28 U.S. Code. And 28 U.S. Code is literally how we lay out how the judiciary works, right? Judiciary and judicial procedure. So that's why it's saying when we're talking about courts, we're talking about this. When we're talking about 28 U.S. Code and we're talking about the United States, it could be the United States Federal Corporation that hires and fires and fucking employs people. How else would you ever take to court your employer as the United States? Is defined as a government agency that is established by Congress to provide market-oriented public services to produce revenues that meet the approximate of its expenditures. By this definition, currently here there are 17 total U.S. government corporations. This is all this is all in the eyes of the court when you go to sue or a trial or whatever you're doing. And by the way, it says it's a federal corporation, not a private corporation. There are plenty of federal corporations that exist. General Flynn tell you that? What the fuck does that mean?
Say, look, it was our ancestors which wouldn't have been that long ago.
Right.
It would have been like my great-great-grandparents. You know, everybody has a role to play. That's why no one can point a finger, because every one of our family members would have been guilty too of not knowing the language and leaving it up to Congress. And then Congress built their own little nest and said, when Americans realized that 535 members of Congress had been controlling 332 million people, well, which obviously population.
They still think there are representatives.
Well, that's what's funny. Our war in the Revolutionary War was started taxation without representation. Now we
it falls under, actually, hold on. Here's what it says. The statute in question does not say the U.S. is a private for-profit corporation according to legal experts. Instead, the statute defines what the term United States refers to, and it's used in one specific section of U.S. Code describing federal debt collection procedures. This definition lists a federal corporation as one of several entities that the U.S. people can owe money to. So even I was wrong. I thought it was as an employer. Maybe that's somewhere else in there. The U.S. federal corporation is something that you can owe money to. For debt collection procedures, as like taxes or other things that you might owe debt to the federal government for. Statute refers to federal entities that can collect money. The code referenced in the Post 28 U.S.C. 3002-15 is part of Title 28 of the U.S. Code, which describes the procedures for judiciary of the judiciary. The first rule for figuring out what statute means is to look at what context. In the statute, the term United States is listed as the 15th term in the list of 16 definitions that are used in the part of the U.S. Code that outlines procedures for federal debt collection. These definitions are only for the purpose of that specific chapter. The definition of the U.S. Refers to the federal entities that people can owe money to. So if you had a court case that for not paying taxes or for owing a debt, and it was U.S. government versus Bird, then it would be for owing federal debt to. In other words, it's describing the different entities that are referred to in this code with the generic term United States, and that's all it's doing. You might say United States instead of saying United States such and such agency that you owe debt to. You owe debt to the United States. It doesn't even remotely say that the United States is a federal corporation. Federal corporations are created by Congress. Many companies in the U.S. are created by individuals, but some are created by Congress. Entities referred to as federal corporations. They include Amtrak, Tennessee Valley Authority, Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, Export-Import Bank of the United States. Congress establishes federal corporations to perform public purpose, which provides market-oriented products or services. Section 3002 is not intended to define the United States broadly or comprehensively. Its definition applies only to the chapter dealing with procedures and remedies of recovering certain debts for the United States. There you go.
We have representation, and what I'm trying to tell people is that the representatives we have, they don't represent us because most Americans don't even know what they're...
Why did Big Pharma tell you that? With General Flynn?
Language is. Right. And we're the government. That's what we the people means in the declaration. We're the actual government.
Right.
They work for us.
Right. But they don't know it, neither do we. They just go in insider trade and invest in vaccines when some disease is invented.
Well, and people think it's like work, right? It's like too much work. It's like too much to know this stuff. And I'm like, well, first off, most of these laws and orders, once again, it wasn't supposed to be this many, right? It wasn't supposed to be this complicated. So I'm the guy saying, look, not all these. I'm showing what's in place right now that President Trump put in place. That's backing out a lot of this stuff. And you're going to abolish a lot of things. He just said this yesterday in a speech in Vegas. He's like, all the service members, not military. He said people who work in service making tips. We're going to eliminate taxes. Well, he's not. There's not a. I mean, there may be a tax on a tip, but he's pointing to a lot of different taxes they're going to abolish. There's a lot of things that's never been passed lawfully.
He specifically said we're going to eliminate taxes for these people, but he meant all taxes. And he just lied. So, yes, you do have to report your tips and pay taxes on them legally. Actually, you'll get in trouble, or your employer could get in trouble. So if you don't report your earnings to where you're at least making minimum wage, your employer has to make up the difference. So, yes, you do pay taxes on tips. I don't know what the fuck he's talking about.
Tax on a tip, but he's really making tips. We're going to eliminate taxes. Well, he's not. There's not a. I mean, there may be a tax on a tip, but he's pointing to a lot of different taxes they're going to abolish. There's a lot of things that's never been passed lawfully.
Yeah, right? Like income tax.
Income tax. So there's a lot of things he's eliminate taxes. Well, he's not. There's not a. I mean, there may be a tax on a tip, but he's pointing.
There may be a tax on a tip. Well, of course there fucking is, you goddamn retard. So Trump was at a restaurant in Las Vegas, and he was talking to a waitress. And he asked the waitress, what would it take for me to win your vote? And she said, you could eliminate taxes on all tips, haha. And Trump said, spread the word, and he instructed all of his supporters there to write on their restaurant receipts, vote for Trump because there will be no taxes on tips. That's what happened. But what he really meant, according to Derek Johnson, is that there'll be no taxes on anything ever because it's illegals. The legal beagle Derek Johnson. Look out. Look out. Here, let's see if we can read it. He mentions that at his rally, but he got it from, there's a clip of him talking to somebody. Let's see what he says here.
New CBS polling finds that President Biden and former President Donald Trump are virtually tied nationally and in battleground states. This comes as Trump returned fully to the campaign trail.
It looks like Trump's one point ahead nationally and Biden's 1 point ahead on battleground states.
The first time since his New York felony conviction. He held a rally,
which is pretty fucking close. And this was just from a week ago.
In Las Vegas over the weekend. Part of his strategy out west is to win more voters in traditionally blue states. And he also unveiled a new policy that he plans to enact if elected.
So this is the first time I've said this, and for those hotel workers and people that get tips, you're going to be very happy, because when I get to office, we are going to not charge taxes on tips. People making tips.
All right, CBS News campaign reporter Olivia Rinaldi is following this from Las Vegas.
Tips are just income, right? There's even gift taxes. Like, you can't gift somebody money without taxes. A lot of YouTubers ended up getting in trouble for this because they would give people cars or homes that really needed them. But, like, if someone gives you a fucking $500,000 home, which a lot of places, that's just a normal home, like with the cost of living, and you don't have any money on the bank, how are you supposed to pay all the taxes on that when the tax year ends, right?
To a lot of different taxes they're going to abolish. There's a lot of things that's never been.
Service workers, if you get tips, you won't pay taxes. Oh, what he really meant is no taxes will ever exist ever. There'll be no tax ever.
Passed lawfully.
Yeah, like income tax.
Income tax. So there's a lot of things he's alluding to that's going to open a big can down here that everybody's going to love and appreciate.
So just,
but yeah, we got to get back to the military.
Well, and so when you say that he set a military operation, the gears in motion before 2020, are you saying everything that's happened has been part of his plan, or was it subverted by January 6th and pushing the vote? Biden's president, Trump has to work to get back.
He's saying it was a sting operation.
That's what I meant. That's what I want you to.
Well, so what would be a sting operation in a different manner? But we have all these manuals put into place.
Explain
and so you got the Special Operations Command in 2016. Okay. That's military. The Military Justice Act is just showing separation of military, federal. Okay. All right. Then his first big executive order with a national emergency was in December 2017, which encompasses human rights, which encompasses all trafficking, child, human, sex, and drug.
I remember this.
The reason why drug, is even bigger in a different manner is that's where a lot of it was funded. All this others. Yeah. And right now you've been seeing a lot. The Coast Guard put an article out this past week, 63 million seized in a shootout. And they've been doing this weekly. All right. So
Derek can't help but bounce around. He's like, tell us, did this plan start because January 6th, Biden got elected and he started the plan there? Or was this in place long before that? Well, the Coast Guard just said that they seized 62 million in the shootout.
But you go back to March.
I'm glad this guy's very softly pushing back against Derek Johnson, but he left a lot of fucking meat on these tiny little bones.
2017, President Trump put an executive order, not a national emergency, but put an executive order in for opioid crisis. Right. He went hard on opioid. He tore up the pharmaceutical companies, and it's all proven in a different manner with these Army publications. And it's mainly Army doing it, but there was a Marine Corps publication put out as well. It talks about Mao's 3 principles, and it says heavy Title 50. Well, that's where you get into the real War Powers Act, Title 50. And it said heavy Title 50 and large-scale military operations. All right. Well, that's over here in your 2016 publication as well, up here in the overt portion. Now, most of this down here in that pyramid has already happened. I believe we're in this overt portion where we're in the large-scale military, all right, with Israel and certain things that you've been seeing.
So Derek Johnson believes we're overthrowing the government secretly behind the scenes. Again, why did he say that Trump didn't want it to look like a coup? Because it was a coup. Derek Johnson believes, you read some of the stuff I said in here, right? He's lying to the people to get them mad, to get them violent, to get them upset. He believes that Trump's implementing this plan.
And elsewhere. But getting people to understand, like, what my thing is, I tell people the two things that President Trump, once again, if you listen to President Trump speak, he's got to appeal to the average American. They're hearing stuff like, there's 15 million people coming across the border daily, and blah, blah, blah. They're hearing that. A guy like me sitting there hearing him say, right after he says it, he'll put in the little word behind it, central casting. See, so if I pick on my own people, being Southern, right? We have the good old boy. The good old boy's a good guy, right? And there's good.
What does central casting mean? When Trump says central casting, well, he's probably alluding to his Q-tard followers, but what it actually means is like, you're like a basic bitch, right? If someone said, show me a guy who wants so badly to be thought of as a cowboy, but's never even seen a horse, it would be Derek Johnson swapping from his baseball cap to his cowboy hat and writing a book called The Last Lone Ranger, whatever the fuck it's called, right? It means like you couldn't pick, like you were typecasted for this role. If I said, show me a little sassy Chinese woman who honestly is in the chat way too much, Atsuko, right? If I said, show me the woman who killed her husband and buried her in the backyard and still pretends to log into his account like he's still in the chat, Legend, right? That's exactly what's happening.
Good old girls and they're good girls. But the average
That's
American...
why he says central casting. He's like, you couldn't think of a better representation of like a dumb blonde or the quintessential office worker.
And that don't know the laws and orders in place, and Army, publications, military, most of them weren't going to know that in the first place.
Right.
Because it was designed this way. It was also designed where you didn't have people getting in the street fighting each other. Because it ain't that kind of war. When people hear military operation, they think boots on the ground like Iraq and Afghanistan. Right. It was never going to be that. It's a subterranean conflict, cleaning out the trafficking, which is cleaning out the federal corporation, and how these global elitists on all sides, Rhino Republicans made their monies as well. Right. You have, and then you have it.
Trafficking, she said. Rhino Republicans made money. Trafficking.
You have it everywhere that shows what Congress is supposed to make as well. They're not to make a certain amount over what is funded to them by us, the people. How many of our politicians are filthy rich and they don't have a background like Donald Trump to prove it? Right.
All of them.
And there's a lot of more Republicans than it is Democrats.
Trump promised the oil CEOs if they would donate $1 billion to his campaign, he would set back electric vehicles. Like, I'm not even making this up. Give them Gatorade. It's got electrolytes. Plants crave electrolytes. Donald Trump planned to or pledged to scrap Biden's policies on electric vehicles and wind energy and other initiatives for green energy if they would send $1 billion his way. It says, as Donald Trump sat with some of the country's top oil executives at his Mar-a-Lago club last month, one executive complained about how they continue to face burdensome environmental regulations despite spending $400 million to lobby the Biden administration in the last year. Trump's response stunned several of the executives in the room overlooking the ocean. You are all wealthy enough, he said, that you should raise $1 billion to return me to the White House. At the dinner, he vowed to immediately reverse dozens of President Biden's environmental rules and policies to stop new ones from being enacted, according to people with knowledge of the meeting who spoke on the condition of anonymity to describe a private conversation. Giving $1 billion would be a deal, Trump said, because the taxation and regulation they would avoid thanks to him, according to the people. Trump's remarkably blunt and transactional pitch reveals how the former president is targeting the oil industry to finance his re-election bid. At the same time, he has turned to the industry to help shape his environmental agenda for a second term, including rollbacks of some of Biden's signature achievements on clean energy and electric vehicles. He's just blatantly asking for bribes at this point. Like, I understand people aren't ready to go to electric vehicles now. People maybe they travel too far. You don't want the complication. You don't think you can work on it. It'll be expensive. Parts are expensive. But people realize that eventually, at some point, we're going to have to go away from gas vehicles, right? Like, I understand, like, we probably shouldn't pass a law tomorrow that says nobody can burn gas ever again. We're not ready for it. But moving that way is the only way that we're going to be ready eventually. We can't burn gas forever. Even if you think it's 200 years from now, we should probably start getting some stuff in place, right? Or you just want to wait for the day that the fucking pumps run dry and then be like, oh, shit. What are we supposed to do now? You push, I'll steer. No one knows what the fuck you're saying, Jennifer Jones. You're the only one that's like, General Flynn tell you that? No, you dumb cunt. I got a little secret message from the back of your throat last night.
She used it to insider trade and enrich themselves.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You saw someone pretending to be driving their car that ran on water. That's not true. None of those have ever been true.
People will accept that. Then I say, accept that.
You have to put energy in to get energy out. Cars don't run on water.
Nah. Now let me show you the operation. All right. It was supposed to be more secretive at first because you didn't want, like I said, President Trump has to make sure there's no civil unrest. All right. But with the normal Americans. Right. Right. Then if you want to know what's going on, then here's your blueprint, and I have it. Right. And it's not like I'm, I was the only one that I was so frustrated in 2022. I'd already built up because I'd written these things called the documents. I was so frustrated that I couldn't believe that no one else could see it, but especially a lot of my veteran brothers.
I was making a joke when Derek Johnson first went viral. I was making a joke that he was recording in his car because his wife was tired of hearing his shit. And the argument that people made against me disproving his entire argument was, he's not even married. He lives with his parents, you idiot. He's a 40-year-old successful country musician who has all the keys to success. He just wrote a book about it. But he lives with his parents. You got me. You showed me.
And sisters. But then again, not everybody reads what I read, and not everybody reads the laws and orders. So President Trump, so you got the good old boy. When they
oil by definition is not unlimited.
Here, 15 million coming across the board. While they're processing that, that's when he hits that real quick. But it's central casting, and then he boom jumps right to another topic. So they don't hear that. I'm the one sitting here listening to the nuggets he's dropping, while the normal Americans are listening to what they normally know.
What does he mean by central casting?
It's by definition a finite resource.
That it's all planned. So central casting, when you Google that, the first thing that pops up on the SEO search engine is leading background actor agency in the nation. Yeah. Now, you're a star actress. You're not a background. The background, if we can make some comedy here, right?
Even some of the deposits we'll never be able to get to because technology limitations.
I'm not a comedian, but maybe I can take my stab here. But like when everybody's at the movie theater watching you, right, do your thing or something, right? And you're the first thing, you're the first the name that pops up. Everybody's getting up after they go, oh, it's over. They're walking out. Well, those little background actors are the ones that people are already in the vehicle in the parking lot. That's where if they even have a name, right? Or they'll say the stunt doubles and stuff. All these names down here aren't being seen by anybody, right?
Are you talking about the credits, you fucking retard? You think people sat and watched the credits to see Roseanne Barr, but then they leave? Have you never watched a fucking Star Wars movie?
So that's what central casting is. They're just people. When you go read some of the stuff on centralcasting.com, it says come lay in this alley for like 30 minutes and look like you're dead. Yeah. And they don't get a name credit. They don't get any name credit at all, right?
So you're saying that people coming across the border are
President Trump says that. He says it all the time.
Well, it depends. He's saying when President Trump, if he is probably giving a wink and a nod to these retards, right, that are waiting for him to say shit like this. But what he's saying is they look like the poor, impoverished mother of three who just wants her children to succeed and to die of cancer. But he's saying that the media goes out and finds the best case scenario. But what they're not showing you is the drug dealers and the rapists and the murderers or blah, blah, blah. They're showing you central casting of a poor, impoverished mother who just wants to succeed and her kids to grow up in America.
So there's not the border invasions.
And here's the other thing you got to keep in mind.
Yeah.
There's a huge difference in a migrant and an immigrant.
Right. True.
And what the news has been showing everybody, that's been flying right over everybody's head. Every news article shows migrant, which is temporary. Then when you mix President Trump's central casting, so a temporary actor. Tom Homan, probably the most lethal ICE agent in history, right? Whether you like him or not, it doesn't matter, but just paint what he is. He's probably the most lethal. President Trump loves him. I've met him one time. He punched me in the ribs, and he's a tough guy. Like he's like, yeah, and I'm like, oh, can we another way? That kind of hurt, right? But he's a tough guy. CPAC last year, 2023, President Trump says, Tom, where's Tom Homan at? Tom, where you at?
Immigrant, migrant, and foreigner are often used interchangeably. Although some definitions will tell you that migrants are temporary and immigrant is someone who stays forever, they probably test these words to see how their audience reflects to these words. Immigrant versus migrant versus undocumented versus illegal immigrant.
Tom, central casting. Like if most people already, if you know who Tom Homan is, you already know him. But if Tom Homan was thinking, I'm gonna get,
I know what hydrogen motors are.
Let's say Tom had a book. Maybe he'll plug my book, and then President Trump, central casting. That's all it says.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember him.
But people know that migrants are getting free housing and hotels at taxpayers' expense.
But they're also being tracked. They all, and a lot of them are better dressed than you and I.
I know.
So a lot of these are actors, and this is all planned.
This is what I want to hear.
For what?
Hydrogen's combustible. Energy in, energy out. I don't know if that's an argument to the car running on water. That's not the same thing. Hydrogen is not water.
Yes. Pointing at Tom Homan, well, you got to wake Americans up. When are Americans going to? That's what I tell patriots is this, because I get a lot of resistance on saying that, and that's fine. But here's what you say. And conservative, Republican, once again, That's just a title, unless you know what's going on. Why are we just now, I tell the Patriot, why are you just now being all gung-ho about America? Why weren't you this way in the past even 10 years, 20 years? Why are you just all of a sudden all out a patriot about our border when you should have already been this way? If you're about our border. If you're the polar opposite and you believe that everybody should be here, then you know, that's a different topic and argument. But it's mainly the patriots and the conservatives and the Republicans that are going, I can't believe you're saying, I'm not saying, President Trump's saying this. So you either believe in him or you don't. He's the one saying central casting.
So you're saying the sting operation, all this stuff, is to show the American people just how bad shit's gone, because you can't tell them, and I can believe you.
You got to show them.
That's what I was asking very early on. So this,
and then you find
hydrogen zero emissions, cool though.
Find out what we're made of from the standpoint of, do we want an identity or not?
So we're being pushed
in a different.
Well, we're being forced to choose that line, right? Which line? Side of the line we're going to be on?
By Trump or the military? Or both?
No, by President Trump. The military's got different. I'm saying central casting. Patriots and the conservatives and the Republicans that are going, I can't believe you're saying. I'm not saying President Trump's saying this. So you either believe in him or you don't. He's the one.
I think they're going to have a hurdle jumping hydrogen explosive, right? Hydrogen is we use hydrogen in generator casings. It produces less drag and it's less hard on the equipment, spinning equipment. I think the explosion potential with hydrogen fuel cells is something they might have to overcome. Every time I've heard somebody talk about it, they're always talking about, well, what about in a collision? Do we have a fucking mini hydrogen bomb? I don't know. I think it's interesting.
Saying central casting.
So you're saying the sting operation, all this stuff, is to show the American people just how bad shit's gone, because you can't tell them, and I can believe you.
You got to show them.
That's what I was asking very early on. So this,
and then you find out what we're made of from the standpoint of, do we want an identity or not?
So we're being pushed
in a different.
Well, we're being forced to choose that line, right? Which line? Side of the line we're going to be on?
By Trump or the military? Or both?
No, by President Trump. The military's got their operations doing this.
Okay.
It's a subterranean conflict. The military's never going to get into domestic anything like that.
Okay.
Unless
this is fascinating. I love this.
Unless the only way the military would get in something domestically would be something like he just said it. So we were talking about the military being in control, right? Well, when I say control, that's where I was trying to get people to see that military's in a different kind of operation right now. All right. President Trump just said
infrastructure is another thing. How fast can we put in hydrogen refueling stations? I saw somebody the other day. Was that natural gas? I saw a TikTok of a guy out in the middle of nowhere in Texas, but I guess there was a plant there that did something with, maybe it was natural gas. But anyways, he was pulling up to refuel his fuel cell with, it probably was natural gas, at a pump. But it was like the only one in the country or some shit, because it was like that factory and they had their own pump and shit there at this gas station. I don't know. I think there's like 15 hydrogen fuel points in the U.S. or something. I like watching like mechanical and motor stuff. There's not many of them. And someone said, I don't know if this is true, that hydrogen car production is a lot more. There's like a Toyota. There might be other ones. There's already like some hydrogen cars that exist, but I think production to make them is more expensive or some shit. But they have the same issue that electric vehicles have, but at least we have electricity ran places. Will the grid support everybody on electric cars? No. It'll be a huge infrastructure investment. I was just talking the other day to a guy who is pretty high up in his city's like utilities, I guess. He's like an assistant director, blah, blah, blah. And I was talking to a guy on the internet about it, and he said that the Ford dealer, there was I don't remember if it was a law or if it was something the Ford dealer required, or if it was like a city law or state law, but they had them put these fast chargers in, and because they put so many in such a dense area, they had to have so many that it cost like $1 billion in infrastructure rework to get enough power there. And that a local area that had a bunch of gas stations and shit, they were wanting to put in EV chargers, and it was going to cost about the same, like $1 billion worth of investment just to get enough power there. They've got enough power for the existing, but if they're talking about putting in 30 fucking high, fast car chargers, then they're going to have to rework the system. I don't know. There's a Toyota now that I'm pretty sure it's a Toyota. Let's see. That you can buy, but it's like $60,000 or some shit is what it starts at. the Mirai. No, the Mirai, M-I-R-A-I. Mirai combines hydrogen with oxygen from outside air to generate power through electricity. It's reduction oxidation, redox, without creating emissions, helping propel. But there was one before that, I thought. Electric cars are expensive too, but people are taking the cheap choice. In 2021, Mirai year-long review of the hydrogen car. So they've been making it for a little bit. This is the second year of the hydrogen highway with Toyota's hydrogen fuel cell car. Shows that there are still bumps in the road. This was back in 2021, though. Oh, sorry, 2022, because they've had it for a year. It's a mix between a Toyota and a Lexus. The Lexus, it's based on the same as a Lexus LS, and it feels like a Lexus. It feels more like a Lexus than a Toyota. The range is less than Toyota. Promises at 402 miles for a full fuel cell. 357 for the nicer Mirai Limited, which weighs more and has different wheel tire combo. Still, even with the moderate speeds, my little old lady driving habits are one reason I was picked for the assignment. It only averaged 331 miles of range per tank, even allowing for an alleged 20-mile reserve when the range hits zero, as I was told by the Mirai drivers. I never did work up the nerve to run the car empty. That's still below the 402 they predict. Hydrogen infrastructure still needs work. Of course, that would be less of an issue if hydrogen fueling infrastructure was a little more developed. There were 40-something stations in the country when... Oh, there was 40-something stations in the country. I thought it was 15. Where did I get that number from? Maybe an old article? When I took delivery of the 2021, now there's 44 by the end of our loan. Our loan coincided with a gaggle of new stations being opened by a company called True Zero. Something we took as a promising sign, but it wasn't. The company went out of business. We found that if one station went down, cars would flock to nearby stations, overrun them. They'd run out of fuel. We saw days when half the stations in California and thus the country were out of commission. I don't know. That might be an alternative.
Las Vegas. And I think it was Saturday or Sunday. I had to go back and look. On June the... I think we're on that. So it's
no, I get it. I get it. You're from China and speak Japanese. We get it.
To the 9th. I can't remember what day it was. But he said specifically that he was talking about the TV. He said, not the TV military, not the TV generals. He said, but I hope our military revolts at the voting booths this year. Well, if President Trump was a former president and he said that, that would be a seditious act to overthrow the government as well. So see, I'm a guy that says, okay, if this is a former and he's saying that, then I have to go, I'm a neutral guy that says, okay, if he's a former president and he said that right there, that would be used in the...
Donald Trump rallied supporters in Vegas over the weekend, promising to eliminate taxes on tips for hospitality workers, while also going after the teleprompter operator, complaining about the heat, and criticizing the southern border when he killed the bipartisan border deal.
He just came up. Are the teleprompters not working, sir? Not even a little bit. Great job. And then I don't pay the company that does it, right? And then I end up with a story Trump doesn't pay. I don't pay contractors that do a job, and that's a job. That's a job. It's 110, but it doesn't feel it to me, right? Everybody was so worried yesterday about you, and they never mentioned me. I'm up here sweating like a dog. Secret Service said, we have to make sure everyone's safe. I said, what about me? Oh, we never thought of that. They don't think about me. You feel the breeze? Because I don't want anybody going on me. We need every voter. I don't care about you. I just want your vote. I don't care. This is the worst.
I don't care about you. I just want your vote.
Worst border in the history of the world. There's never...
He killed the border deal that looked like it was going to pass.
No third world country has a border like that. And no third world... I tell you what, and I hope the military revolts at the voting booth.
Joining us now, CEO of the Nevada Independent and MSN.
Wow. Wow.
Military against the people.
That's one of the things liberals and Democrats say about Trump when he says stuff like that. That's
and it's not, though, because I have the evidence that shows this was a military occupation, which would mean a military operation with the subterranean warfare, all your trafficking clean out, all that going on in the world. The continuity of operations would mean that Congress is under they're cleaning out the legislative branch, the executive branch, and also the judicial branch. See, what everybody's watching right now with President Trump and these trials is a judicial clean out.
Yeah.
The executive branch clean out came when all the chaos of January 2021. Yeah, everybody was distracted with January 6th.
Mm-hmm.
January the 13th, he had a massive speech, or maybe the 10th in Texas, down at Alamo, Texas. Then the 13th, he was somewhere, a massive speech. So you had all this chaos, all the National Guard moving into D.C. First time in history, all 50 states were in one location at one time.
Yes, that's
plus
true.
Guam and Puerto Rico.
Yes. Right.
And they said it's for the inauguration. Well, why did they say to March 2021? If it was for the inauguration, why didn't they go home immediately?
Right.
It didn't. So it had
Because of potential violence after the inauguration.
all that chaos, and that was distracting to Americans. Well, right in the middle of that,
Not to mention, it would be kind of shitty if you called all those people to D.C. and then you only gave them like 3 days worth of pay. Like they didn't even get. And one thing the National Guard needs is time, active duty time for their retirement, for benefits and shit like that. It would have been really shitty if they'd called them up all there for like 3 days.
in January 15th, 2021, a publication came out which goes to your continuity of operations. So in January 2017, January 17th to be specific, and June 13th.
The longer they kept them there, the barbed wire there, them marching around, the worse it made Trump look as well.
17, 2 brand new continuity of operations, which would be old school continuity government term, publications were put out 3 days before President Trump took that oath, and then 5.5 months after. All right. In bullet point 3 of both of those, it says this supersedes what came before it, and the other one said this supersedes what came before it, because we've had federal continuity of operations plans just in case we needed it. That's what I try to tell people. They have to be in.
We still do.
Vote, and they have to have a reason to be invoked. Well, those are written. There's been 10 publications put up under those since those came out. Well, this one was in January. It was January 15th. It's called the Reconstitution of the Executive Branch. Most people don't know what Reconstitution means. But if you go read that publication, I think it's only 15 pages, but it's one of the shorter ones. But when you go read it, 2.3, section 2.3 says this. And I tell people, before I say it, I say, why would first off, have you ever heard the term Reconstitution? And most people would say, most people would say no. Let's say most Americans would say no. If they do say yes, then you say, well, what is Reconstitution? Can you give me a definition of that? And most would say no. All right.
Is it restructuring?
So why are you all of a sudden hearing this word?
It's to rebuild.
You've never heard in your life with our government.
So, Mike, we talk about liver health.
We made it to the second thing. I got to get on the treadmill. I got some new shoes, guys. I would love to finish this, but it was 2.5 hours to begin with. We might watch it some more on a different day. We might watch some Patreon stuff and go over some more of it tomorrow. The Patreon and Twitch subscribers, thank you guys for joining us. I appreciate it. Thank you for the support. If you consider supporting the show, that's how we pay the bills around here. That's how we get it. Thank you for the donation. Gary Gaffner made a donation, so I appreciate that. I'm going to hop off here for the night. Thanks for joining us. Derek Johnson's still a fucking retard, and we will see everybody on the next one. Love you. See you. Bye. Have a good night. I'll try to be in a better mood and start earlier. Now that Father's Day is past us.
But I can tell you this about if this douchebag happens to see this particular...
I got new shoes made by a company that is known for... My shoes aren't orthopedic. They're just like supportive running shoes. But the company started making orthopedic shit. So hopefully my shit doesn't fuck up again with my $7 TikTok shoes.
Here we go, I think I started some shit. Piss them off, it's about to get lit. Get the place in the best, you know that stage is set. You better buckle up, cause you ain't seen nothing yet. Here we go, I think I started some shit. Piss them off, it's about to get lit. Get the place in the best, you know that stage is set. You better buckle up, cause you ain't seen nothing yet. And they say that I'm a lunatic. Well listen, bitch, I came equipped with a quick wit and a 6th sense for the stupid shit. Where my true believer?
There's been some new stuff pop up in the Karen Reed case, dude.
All these false fucking prophets who profit off of gossip, worshiping drums.
We could probably talk about that one day.
Swinging fucking meat hammers like four in a thong. He's strapped to the shaft, beating his chest like he's King Kong. Starving for attention, I'ma make your gut burst. I'll be your huckleberry, I can quench that thirst. Baby eating lizard people, alien sex. What's next? Trump in a dress, fucking Flynn on his desk. A retard in a vest, climbing up 5G towers. Cause you told him if he did, he'd get fucking superpowers. Here we go, I think I started some shit. Piss them off, it's about to get lit. Get the place in the best, you know that stage is set.
Have a good night, everybody.
Cause you ain't seen nothing yet.